and pave the way for a more inclusive world. So, let's continue to embrace that unity.
In a world where technology continues to push the boundaries of what's possible,
Tumia scratches for a while. Juu ya hiyo hundu wakati nilikatwa niliambiwa nikae for some time.
Through the power of 3D technology, they are changing the lives of amputees.
When people lose a limb due to accidents or other reasons, we give them a new limb so they can walk again.
It is better to educate the people, particularly the husbands. I know the husbands can get annoyed, but it doesn't mean that you cut the hand of a lady whom you love and look after. And that is the issue I wanted to bring out.
Differently.
19 nations will compete in the Total Energies CAF African Nations Championship, Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania 2024, which will be staged from 2nd to 30th August 2025. Amongst the 4 groups in the tournament A to D, Kenya is pooled in Group A, together with Morocco, Angola, DR Congo and Zambia.
Algeria from the set piece, the header is on target, but it's saved.
This unique competition featuring the best locally based players from across the continent definitely has something for everyone. Just bring your A game as you let it flow live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
Very good. Welcome to the program. My name is Victor Law. On this beautiful day of today's, what did I say, 19? It's the 12th day of June 2025. Good morning. Welcome to the program. My name is Victor Olo. Of course, it's going to be an important day in the calendar of our country, today being the day that the budget is going to be tabled before Parliament officially to be read for the next financial year, 2025-2026. It's going to be a 4.2 trillion shillings budget compared to 2024-2025, the supplementary 2, which was there. Revenue is also expected to grow by 8%, while the fiscal deficit, FCPA John Mbadi, who is the CS Treasury, says that is expected to drop by 1%. Regina Manyara will be somewhere, but right now she is here. She will teleport herself to allocations. She will Ray, good morning.
Good morning to you. I like the term teleport.
You will teleport yourself.
A bit of time travel there, yes?
Yes.
So today's budget day being John Mbadi's as the Cabinet Secretary, National Treasury, maiden budget presentation. The big question is the 4.2 trillion shillings proposed budget ambitious given the macro and the microeconomic status of the country?
Yes.
Further, how do they intend to finance the budget? Raising the funds, and this is where we now focus on the Finance Bill 2025-2026. What amendments have been made thus far? There are few amendments that have been made to the income tax, Victor, among them being there is a proposal under Cap 479,
yes,
Section 12, that is deemed to give the taxman, that is the Kenya Revenue Authority, access to personal data, to in a move that is seemingly directed at curbing tax evasion.
Yes.
That is one of the thorny issues that a majority of Kenyans have raised in regards to matters of data privacy. That is just but one of the amendments. And what is very keen or curious about this particular budget, 2025-2026, is that the government, instead of introducing new taxes, is actually mopping up, or rather doing administration, mopping up some of the VAT or VAT areas to just try and, raise the requisite funds to propel government projects, as well as just run the government for the next 12 months or so for the next fiscal year. Question is, will it sail through in its current form? That's a big question. Yeah.
But Regina, year in, year out, we always find ourselves here, this same set. Okay, but the question is, Wanjiku is asking herself, so what does it have effect kwa mfuko?
What do I say this? Okay. Under the finance bill proposed, that is 2025-2026, there are key areas. You can say it's a mixed bag of beans for Wanjiku. For one, there are revisions where we are not going to be now taxing per diems to private employees up to the tune of 10,000 shillings. It was initially 2,000 shillings. That is more money to you. And also, pensions enters the exempt regime, right? So I would say that is one of the key highlights of the budget in terms of ensuring that you have more money in your pocket. But then there are other several questions that have been raised, especially by those who are already in the digital space. There is a proposal to lower the digital service tax from the current 3% to 1.5%. That is a good thing, looking at where we are in as far as the digital space is concerned. However, there are also recommendations or other proposals in that same budget that are introducing a streamlined taxation for traditional broadcast mediums like us, as well as those who are broadcasting on the digital platform. That all these times you streamline how tax is supposed to be surcharged or imposed on these particular entities in an equal. So it's quite a mixed bag of beans thereabout. Then there's a question of when we move things from VAT zero rated to VAT exempt, what does it mean? I think that's one of the key issues we're going to be unpacking, Victor, as we look at the proposed budget.
Bei ya mkate na maziwa. Regina, that's what I want to ask. Bei ya mkate ya maziwa bado itapanda ama? Well,
as I've said, unlike what we saw in the previous budget, 2024, the government went and Schedule A of VATable items, including bread and the likes. This time what they have done is that is where it falls under the income tax, under the proposed finance bill 2025-2026. It has moved certain items, but not basic commodities, from Schedule B, or rather moving them from VAT zero rated to VAT exempt. So this might seemingly deny government revenue, and it expects maybe to have this cost of these items come down. But the truth of the matter is, when you do tax exempt, it means from a producer point of view or manufacturer point of view, is that you're likely not to be able, actually not be able to claim tax refunds on inputs. So what is likely to happen is that these manufacturers are likely to pass the buck on you and I as consumers. So that is an area, the VAT zero rated, that I'm sure we'll need to delve into that, because there's been a lot of confusion there, and we've even had the National Treasury Cabinet Secretary John Badi appear across media houses just trying to explain that particular move by Treasury to try and bring the cost of living down through that particular proposal or rather amendment. But then we need to know exactly what does it mean for Wanjiku. So I don't know if I've put it as simple as I could, but if you like, we can actually pick it as a topic of discussion.
Just to remind our viewers that the budget is read across all East Africa community nations, right?
Yep, it is.
Right.
It is. And so at the end of the day, we are going to be comparing the Uganda budget to the Kenya budget, you know, and such. Yes, it is read at the same time.
All right. All right, Gesheri, tuendelee na kazi.
You know, you say that, they'll think there's someone else coming in to take off the rather. handle the bulletin. Well, let's now bring you up to speed with what has been making headlines in the last 12 hours or so. Remember, it is budget day and we are here for it. We'll be in the studio, we'll be in Parliament, we'll be at Treasury to just take it through how the day will look like. Looking at what happened in the last 2024-2025 budget, we do not know what we are going to see by 2:30, but you can bet you will see it right here. But before we speak matters finance, how about we bring you up to speed, where Inspector General of Police Douglas Kanja has apologized to the family and the country at large for indicating that the late Albert Ojwang died after hitting his head on the wall. The police IG's apology, however, came after he was hard-pressed by Senate members who faulted the police report that was contradicted by the autopsy. Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen, who had led a team of top security officials before the Senate for interrogation on the late Ojwang's murder in police custody, shocked senators after he indicated that the Constitution bars him from advising the IG of police on investigations of particular offences. Now the pressure continues to mount on the security apparatus to unravel the puzzle behind the scandal.
And the death of Albert Ojwang, who died in bosses, among them CS Interior Kipchumba Murkomen, DCI boss Mohamed Amin, Inspector General of Police Douglas Kanja, and the National Police Service Commission Chair to shed light on the matter. The summons came as pressure mounts on the security apparatus to take responsibility for his death. The security bosses took oath of office, and first to give statement was Interior CS Kipchumba Murkomen, who condemned the killing and called for those behind the killing to take responsibility.
We are not coming here to give excuses that it is in the absence of a policy direction from the ministry. No, Mr. Speaker, it is just blatant disregard. If you see how that gentleman was beaten, Mr. Speaker, the person who did it is an animal. And it calls upon all of us to say that that person must face justice, and it at the shortest time possible, Mr. Speaker.
It is at this forum that the DCI distanced his officers from the culpability and instead shifted the blame to officers at the Central Police Station. DCI Director Mohamed Amin and Police IG Douglas Kanja gave an account of what transpired, leading to the death of Ojwang.
He was booked at Central Police Station at 21:32. At 21:24, the deceased was given an opportunity while at Central Police Station to talk to his wife. One Nefnin Apondi.
Those who were involved in this action, Mr. Speaker, will be punished severely so that it becomes an example that, Mr. Speaker, such an act should not happen within a police custody.
The Vice Chairperson of IPOA would reveal that CCTV footage at Central Police Station was missing, and efforts were ongoing to retrieve the footage.
The forensic expert and the investigating officer noted when they got into Central Police was that the power was not connected to the power cable of the CCTV was not connected to the socket. But on connecting it, the CCTV came back. But on trying to review the previous day's events, there was nothing. So it is very clear that the CCTV was tampered with.
They further said they were probing claims by police that the deceased had made a phone call to his wife prior to his death. IPOA also asked the legislators to amend the law to have powers to arrest rogue officers, with senators pressing for details of the whereabouts of officers who ferried Albert from Homa Bay.
This murder happened in the cells. And so, Mr. Speaker, the IG must tell us why Ojwang was held all alone in a cell. Because had he been held with other cellmates, then of course we would be able to get information from the other cellmates that they would have been with.
That the OCS Central Police Station confirmed that Albert was in good physical health at the time of being booked in the police cell. For us, if that question is answered, IG, then it will lead to a lot of other conclusions. Was this man okay when he was being booked?
Senators, in probing the security bosses, call for the stepping aside of Deputy IG, with some calling for the resignation of some of the top security chiefs. The Independent Police Oversight Authority, IPOA, is expected to conclude its investigations as public outrage persists, with calls for justice.
Questions and unsatisfactory responses as far as the family and all interested parties are concerned. As it unfolds, you're going to be keeping tabs. And the question is, what are your rights when you're arrested by any security apparatus? Well, the shocking killing of social media influencer Albert Ojwang within 48 hours of his arrest in the hands of police officers has sparked public outrage amid queries on the rights of arrested persons. So this morning, our reporter Kaschana Marsha has a sit-down with an advocate of the High Court to unpack the rights of arrested persons as enshrined in the Constitution.
The arrest of Albert Ojwang in Homa Bay County and his subsequent death in the hands of police officers at Central Police Station has triggered a series of questions as to the circumstances surrounding his death. Of concern is the gross human rights violation he was subjected to, that is detailed in an autopsy report by the government pathologist that revealed he was tortured and strangled to death.
There were also multiple soft tissue injuries that were spread all over the body, including the head also, the neck, upper limbs, and the trunk.
This begs the question, what are the rights of an arrested person as per the Constitution? Chantia Eboyele, criminal and criminal procedures advocate of the High Court, shed light on what law enforcement officers are mandated to do when making an arrest.
Number one, it is important for the police officer to be able to identify themselves. And at some instances, the police officer does not have a uniform, so it is important for them to identify themselves. Number two, they should be able to tell you adequately why they are arresting you, the reason for the arrest. You know, someone can just pick you up from the streets and just tell you, this is why we are arresting you. And then after arresting you, they'll be able now to book you. There's an OB where you are booked at the police station. Then now you are put into the cell.
Further, Chatia says the law provides for an arrested person to be aware of their right to remain silent, right to seek legal aid, and even know which police station he or she is being taken to. Additionally, one should not resist arrest as it could prompt an officer to use force.
Because at the end of the day, we have to remember that also police officers operate from a law in itself. Sometimes we have gotten to a point whereby because of all the atrocities that police officers have committed against us, we get to a point that we want to resist, but resisting arrest is also unlawful.
He says after an arrest, a suspect is expected to be charged in court within the jurisdiction the crime was committed and presented in court within 24 hours of arrest.
For instance, if I can give case example, being that the case that is going on in the country as we speak, this gentleman was taken all the way from Rugby to Nairobi, which for us is extremely absurd because at the end of the day, if he was arrested in Homa Bay, he would just have been arraigned in court in Homa Bay, or rather even arrested and put in cell in Homa Bay. If you are arrested over the weekend, then 24 hours may elapse, but then the following Monday you should be arraigned in court.
Chatia has also urged Kenyans to utilize the services of pro bono lawyers in case they can't afford a lawyer to ensure they're well represented.
Do not resist arrest is one of the advices given by that lawyer, but also knowing why you're being arrested and where it is that the security officers or the police is taking you. Now, President William Ruto has called for accountability within the police ranks in the wake of the brutal killing of Albert Ojwang while in police custody. Speaking at a meeting with Nakuru County leaders at Senate Nairobi yesterday, Ruto warned no one, whether in uniform or civilian, will be spared if found responsible of criminal activity. President demanded swift action from the Independent Policing Oversight Authority, IPOA, as the nation reels from another tragic case that has sparked conversation over police conduct in handling arrested individuals.
President William Ruto has sent a stern warning to rogue police officers insisting that the badge is not a shield for criminal behavior.
We cannot accept kwamba kuna uhalifu inaendelea na saa zingine hata officers wetu wengine wanahusika. And that is why we say, tunasema, whether criminals are in civilian or they are in uniform, we must deal with them firmly and decisively, and the law must apply to each and every person.
His remarks come in the wake of the killing of Albert Ojwang by police officers in a case that has shaken public trust in law enforcement.
The Independent Police Oversight Authority must make sure that officers in uniform who engage in criminal activity instead of protecting citizens must be brought to book, held to account decisively, efficiently, so that we can restore the confidence of citizens in our security apparatus.
Addressing Nakuru County leaders at State House, Ruto reaffirmed that national security is a fundamental right, not a privilege. He emphasized that safety of lives, businesses and property must be safeguarded at all costs and that the government bears full responsibility.
The National Police Service, an independent institution, must discharge its responsibility independently, fairly, decisively, and also with results.
With tensions rising and public confidence in law enforcement under pressure, the president called for coordinated efforts between government administrators and independent agencies like IPOA to clean up ranks, stressing results over rhetoric.
Despite the fact that it is an independent entity, is working with us to make sure that we create the necessary synergy between the provincial, the national government administration officers and our security teams, ndio tuhakikishe ya kwamba kuna usalama.
Ruto also called for firm action against criminal gangs, stressing a zero-tolerance approach to insecurity, regardless of whether offenders are in civilian clothing or uniform.
I have informed and given instructions to the Ministry of Interior to work with the National Police Service and to make sure that the county security team ya Nakuru is up to date. Na kama kuna upungufu wowote, watujulishe so that we make the necessary corrections.
Ben Chumba, Prime Edition.
That's a developing story that we're going to continue keeping tabs on. Now, Lands Cabinet Secretary Alice Wahome says the level of land grabbing in the country has hit another level, with grabbers now bold enough to target public schools and even police stations. Speaking after issuing title deeds to Lavington Primary School in Nairobi for land that has been grabbed by private developers, Wahome said she'll leave no stone unturned in ensuring all cartels involved in grabbing are dealt with accordingly.
On Wednesday, Lands and Public Works Cabinet Secretary Alice Wahome was in Lavington Primary School to issue title deed to the school.
And this now is the title.
The CS reading a riot out to land grabbers in the country, saying her ministry will not tolerate the vice.
The long arm of the law will reach you. People will recover their property because we cannot allow 2.15 acres in Lavington in the hands of one person. I'm sure you also know the value of land in Lavington.
She said it's unfortunate to see the grabbers extending their greed to schools, police stations and courts, saying their evil plans will not succeed.
There is no other existing title with any validity. Sasa wakitaka wale wanamsumbua waende mahakama, wasistaki shule, wasitaki waziri wa ardhi. Waambie from today shamba ni ya shule ya Lavington.
We are very happy that we now have a document that will help us safeguard government property. There before, it would be a bit difficult because when you come in, you would be told the school does not have a title deed, and therefore the boundaries are not defined.
Levington Primary School had been battling a court case with grabbers for 15 years over a 20.9-acre piece of land curtailing further development of the school.
And they're not after schools in the pockets of poverty. They're interested in schools that are in prime areas.
Today you have not just brought us a document. You have brought us security. You have brought us legitimacy. And you have brought us a renewed hope for the future.
Private land is also under the same attack by the cartels. In my view, I may not be the one prosecuting them, but owners of such land are getting good support from the DCI, and we are in agreement with the DCI, Director of Criminal Investigations, to expedite those cases.
The Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, EACC, has arrested 5 individuals in separate incidences as part of a crackdown on rogue public servants using forged academic documents. Following the arrest, the commission seeks to initiate criminal proceedings and recover all salaries, allowances and benefits fraudulently acquired by the suspects so far. The suspects will be presented in court today, the 12th of June.
The suspects, who are former employees of various public institutions, are accused of using falsified academic qualification to secure employment and promotions, resulting in fraudulent acquisition of public funds amounting to tens of millions of shillings. The arrest came after the commission received complaints from members of the public and various public institutions.
The issue of fake academic certificates is prevalent, and in the last 3 years, EACC has received over 550 reports of forged academic and professional certificates. We have so far investigated and completed 134 cases, out of which 85 have been forwarded to the DPP and 33 are pending in court.
The 5 include Priska Ososi, an assistant election officer at KBC, Vincent Tom Kemoli, an assistant at NSDCC, formerly the National AIDS Control Council, Margaret Owanja Mudhui, a former deputy director of supply chain management at Kera, Elijah Mudhoga Kirethi, a former driver at KMTC, and Kelly Gishuri Muiruri, a driver at the Nairobi City Water and Sewerage Company.
We are now working much closely with all stakeholders within the education sector, and it will be much easier as a matter of time for us to be able to verify, and this will enhance our ability to ensure that the services or the issue of academic certificates is dealt with more effectively. Therefore, this is a big warning for those who are intending to do so.
The Director of Public Prosecutions has already approved charges against the suspects, who will now be presented in court for plea taking and full hearing of the criminal suits. Ruth Wamboi for Good Morning, Kenya.
The Kenya Medical Training College, KMTC, has received a consignment of learning materials worth 650 million shillings from Books for Africa. Speaking at KMTC headquarters, Nairobi campus, during the handing over of the consignment, Director at the State Department for Diaspora Affairs in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Irene Karari, said the government was in the forefront in upgrading KMTC to modern learning standards aimed at enhancing the quality of training and improving healthcare services in the country.
Kenya high-quality workforce is crucial for achieving universal health coverage and ensuring that citizens have access to necessary healthcare. Kenya Medical Training College has received a consignment of learning materials worth 650 million shillings from Books for Africa to complement the mission. Speaking at KMTC headquarters Nairobi campus, Director at the State Department for Diaspora Affairs in Ministry of Affairs, Irene Karari, said the government and development partners will collaborate to upgrade.
We are very happy when we receive these books because they're going to continue building capacity for our nurses so that they're able to work well and work with when they're well equipped in the global market. So for us, this collaboration is very important, and we continue urging different partners to partner with our healthcare institutions, with our institution where there is a labor shortage that is being experienced globally.
So happy for this donation to KMTC of medical and nursing textbooks valued at over 650 million Kenyan shillings. Each of these books are fantastic textbooks, and they will contribute to the healthcare and education system across Kenya. So happy to be a part of it.
The two institutions reaffirmed their commitment to strengthening human resources for health, a key pillar for universal health coverage. KMTC Board Chair Josiah Cheruyot and CEO Dr. Kelly Oluoch says the initiative supports KMTC mission to produce high-quality skilled healthcare and human resource that fit local and international markets.
His Excellency the President has given us an enabling environment to engage partners. In our strategic plan that we have in place, it has given us room to engage both internal and external partners. That is why we are having Books for Africa with us, and we are also appealing to other potential friends of KMTC to come on board, because we have room for them to work with us
to produce more of human resources for health. So we must make sure that these human resources for health are prepared for the international stage, that is the international market, and also be able to provide world-class services in our country, Kenya. And therefore, it is important to make sure we have inputs, and one of the most important inputs is the library books.
The books will be distributed across all KMTC campuses countrywide.
Now we cross over to business, where the central bank is urging banks to lower their lending rates in line with the revised base rate. CBK Governor Kamau Thuge says commercial lending rates remain high, despite the regulator easing benchmark rates by more than 1.5 basis points in the last 6 months.
Credit has dropped to a 2-year low from 17.2% in November 2024 to 15.4% in May 2025. But despite this, some banks are yet to lower rates for customers.
Really, as you know, this has been one of our concerns. We, as the central bank, have eased monetary policy quite significantly in the last few months. Starting with August, I think now we have lowered the central bank rate by 325 basis points.
CBK Governor Dr. Kamau Thuge says the revised new risk-based pricing model will help address this by making rate adjustments more responsive and fair to borrowers.
There seems to be more of a lag in the reduction of rates than in the increase of rates, and it is my expectation that once we have this new framework of risk-based pricing of lending rates, that the transmission both ways, increase and decrease, will be much more efficient and with reductions taking place sooner.
He also revealed that the central bank has revised Kenya's 2025 economic growth projections from 5.4% to 5.2%, citing higher global trade tariffs and a possible slowdown in the US and UK economies.
From those sources, we get most of our remittances from the US. At least 55% come from the US, and therefore any slowdown in the US economy could likely have a negative impact on the remittances.
The governor added that the International Monetary Fund IMF mission is expected in the country this September as Kenya seeks a new funding agreement.
To sports, the national rugby women team, Kenya Lionesses suffered a narrow 19-12 loss to South Africa in their second Rugby Africa Women's Cup match played yesterday in Antananarivo, Madagascar. Now, South Africa dominated the first half and were leading 12-0 at halftime before coming back again stronger in the second half to lead the game 19-0. Lionesses struggled but managed to reduce the deficit with 2 tries, courtesy of Freshia Wino and Nolene Kalehi, with the first try converted by Sinadia Mokaya. Now, the 19-12 loss comes on the back of the Lionesses' impressive display against Madagascar, who they beat 28-5 in their opening match. They'll play Uganda next in the 3rd match on Saturday. A couple matters in the headlines this morning. Remember, it's budget day 2025-2026. 4.2 trillion shillings proposed budget. The question is, how does government intend to finance this particular budget? Is it too ambitious? Is it attainable? And the conversations from this point on until Cabinet Secretary National Treasury John Mbadi makes his maiden presentation of the budget 2025-2026 at the floor of the House. We as KBC are going to be keeping tabs on matters budget, looking at the macro and micro economics and what it means for you and me as Wanjiko. Does it bring more money to your pocket or take more out of your pocket? To you, Victor.
Nyamasa, tunaongea na mama, naona niombe nikae chini. Mama ni nani? Nyamasa bwana, mimi naongea na mtu. Mimi unanipotezea wakati. I want to go to the lunch. Wetulia wewe.
Troni ya keki akafunua keki. Agabata ni inaitwa 9x9. Hii mawe ya kujenga.
Mimi ndo nilikuwa nimeiba hiyo keki isingepatikana kwako na watoto wako mkiimba nyimbo za birthday.
Wow. Can I kiss the bride by Mushinani?
Sasa wewe una kiss the bride hapa kuna harusi.
Unasikia nimeolewa.
Umemaliza maswali.
Hata keki hiyo siku toka kama nimeonja hata keki.
Sasa ungeonja nini na keki ushaiba?
Aloniza kanilea, kanifunza kila jema.
Kinyume na mitazamo potovu, wanawake wengi huchagua kuvaa hijab kwa hiari kama ishara ya uhuru na kiroho na uhuru wa kujieleza. Ni uamuzi wa moyo, si wa shinikizo.
Na Mtume sallallahu alaihi wasallam pia katika hadithi akatuambia ijtanibu sab'a muhabikat, jiepusheni na mambo 7 zenye kuangamiza watu. Na miongoni mwa hizo mambo 7 akataja Mtume sallallahu alaihi wasallam kuwa ni ashirku billah, ni mtu kumshirikisha Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Hivyo basi njia rahisi ya wewe kujikinga kutokana na shida na dhiki na balaa ni kusoma suratul Falaq, suratul Nas na suratul Ikhlas. Sura hizi zitakukinga wewe mtazamaji wetu kutokana na shida ambazo zitakukumba katika maisha yako.
Pepo ya dunia, pepo ya dunia.
All right, welcome back. So today being the 12th day of June 2025, it's an important day in the Kenyan calendar as Regina has intimated, and of course it's going to be a very busy day for FCPA. Cabinet Secretary John Mbadi, that's the Cabinet Secretary for Treasury, to give us a 4.2 trillion budget that is said to be the most expensive budget ever read. But is it going to be a good one for the Wananchi? What are some of the dots to be joined in that budget moving forward until 2026? Who are the gainers? Who are the losers? What are some of the figures that will remain constant? And what are some of the common denominators as far as that budget is concerned? I'll take a look at that and we'll have an in-depth discussion. And later on, of course, our colleagues will be talking to us from different places across the country and even around the CBD to give us an insight on what Mwananchi is feeling and expecting about this budget. Dr. John Mukundi, who is an economist, he's not new to Jerusalem, he's been here before. Dr. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Victor.
Karibu sana, good to see you.
Good to see you too.
You look so energetic. Give us a secret.
The joy of the Lord is my strength.
I knew that. I knew that was going to be the one. But yes, the joy of the Lord is a strength.
Yeah.
Karibu sana to the program.
Thank you so much.
A lot is happening across the country, Dr. And being a Kenyan, and of course, we've been taking a look at basically what's been happening across. I really want us to take a look at what's happening on the local dailies, the way we do it normally.
Yes.
Let's take a look at what we have on the local dailies, starting from the first paper, that is the Daily Nation. What we have on the front page of the Daily Nation, Lagat under siege. That is what I have on the front page of the Daily Nation. Yeah, there you have it. Lagat under siege is, of course, his name has been mentioned for the last couple of days. I'm so sure very few people knew the DIG, Lagat, very few people. But for the past couple of days, 3 or 4 days now, he is a household name. Why is he under siege? The story says that Interior Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen and security chiefs spent 7 hours at the Senate being quizzed over the murder of Albert Ojwang while in police custody. As the storm now rages, Deputy Inspector General of Police Eliud Agat, whose complaint triggered the arrest of the slain teacher, faced the wrath of senators and opposition leaders and civil society activists who are now demanding that he should step aside to allow for a transparent probe. They argue that he cannot be part of the investigating team while he's still in office. That is what I have here on the front page of the Daily Nation. And of course, there are a number of excerpts which were given by different leaders. And there is this case where the IPOA said that actually even senators also shocked by revelations that CCTV footage at the Central Police Station has been tampered with. That is what was also said by the IPOA Vice Chair yesterday in the Senate during that Senate sitting. Still on the front page, Ruto Raila first budget. Ruto Raila first budget is the finance bill where the Cabinet Secretary, Treasury Cabinet Secretary John Mbadi will present his maiden expenditure estimates for the broad-based government 2025-2026. We'll take a look at some of the winners and some of the losers and what we need to know. The question I asked Regina earlier on was, what about Wanjiku? I'm concerned about Mkate. Dr. I'm concerned about Bayam Mkate. Yes, we'll be taking a look at that later on. But Dr. let's take a look at the front page of the Daily Nation. What do you make of this? Lagat under siege, of course, just a general observation on what has been happening in the country for the last couple of days.
Yeah, thank you so much. What I would say is that this case is no longer a secret in this particular nation, and what has happened is that we have somebody who has been suspected even by the general public because of certain conduct or the way he conducted himself. And therefore, I would want to just say that it wouldn't be prudent enough for that particular person to just allow. We know the law takes innocence until proven guilty. And therefore, I would just say that it is important that if he has been adversely mentioned, that he should just take some break so that the investigation can go on. If you realize that this is a very senior officer in the government, especially in the National police service, and because he's a very senior officer, what then happens is that he can have some influence when the case is being investigated, and therefore I just believe that if he is an honorable member, then what he should actually do is just
it has always been a call anytime there is a problem, but ideally when you look at it, you know, there's that presumption of innocence until you are proved guilty.
Yes.
So there are so many theories that has been looked at, and probably even before he resigns, even you now as a Kenyan, you demand for that. But generally what is happening is the case of the extrajudicial police killings that we've witnessed in the country.
Yes.
I was looking at a paper here, and some of the human rights activists have given a staggering figure, 49 killed by police since January, according to civil society. That is 49. That number is huge. Dr.
Yeah, it is a very huge number, considering that Kenya has been democratic, and we have fought for that democracy for quite a long time, and human rights are part and parcel of us, and therefore I totally think that killing such a number at such a time as now, I believe it is not a very good thing, especially for this particular nation. It is tainting the government negatively. And it is the high time also the president takes initiative and demands that such kind of things should actually stop. Because what is all indicators are showing, like this Ojwang, all indicators are showing that it has been in police, when he was in police hands. That is when it took place. And therefore, I think it is the high time the government decides to solve this thing once and for all. Because I have heard in the news that the president has said whether he is a criminal in uniform or a criminal who
must be dealt with.
He must be dealt with. I think decisively he should do that, and he should go to the core of this particular matter, so that at least we do not have such things recurring again in the Republic of Kenya. But I also believe the reason why they come back, if you ever find a problem recurring back, it simply means that problem has never been solved. If you realize that you are hungry and you stay a little bit, you feel the pangs of hunger again, it means you haven't eaten. And therefore, what really happens is that the moment there is those extrajudicial killings, and they are happening over and over again, it simply means that there is nothing that is being done. There is no permanent solution that has been sought by
What would be a
authorities.
conclusion, based on what Albert Ojwang went through, that the extrajudicial killings is now a reality? Whatever happened, this has just opened that lid, you know, openly now for everybody to smell the rot inside that container, that whatever happened to Albert Ojwang is just but a representation, probably, of what perhaps happened in the past.
Yeah, I just think that this has been ongoing. It's only that this case has gone the way it could be. It was never expected to happen. And that is why it has gone to the proportion that is higher than all the other cases. Like you have heard human rights talking about 49 cases, but it is actually this case that has been
It's
gone.
now shadowing the 49.
It is shadowing the 49. So you can imagine, because it is a case that is shadowing the 49, there must be some mess up that has been done. Could be there are others that have been done even a bad way than this particular case and never recorded. And therefore, I believe that it is an eye-opener also to us and to the authorities, and especially IPOA. We need not to see IPOA doing joint conferences with the people they are overseeing. And therefore, that is a wrong thing, because we have seen them standing beside the IG and all the other people they are overseeing, and they are giving a joint conference, a joint press conference. I believe it is the high time they change. It is the high time they purpose that this is our work. We are independent, and they are given some money allocated in the budget for that particular assignment. And therefore, I believe that it is a high time they also do their work, because I think if they do not give us a solution, then also it is
it means the logic why they're in office.
There is that office.
Exactly.
Yes.
But then now, the investigations that is also being pushed by IPOA, a number of times they've hit the target in the investigation, but a number of times they've also lost it, quote unquote, lack of evidence, or the case collapses because of a reason or two. But this one now is in the public domain. You've correctly put it, they should be independent.
They should be independent, and I believe that, you know, such a case which has attracted a lot of public interest, I think they should be a little bit keen with it, because we do not want, we have already seen some protest and some people actually demanding for that justice. That means it's a hidden thing, and therefore any action that has not been done, or any action that is done wrongly, may also breach public peace, which I believe should not, we should not be chancing with people's lives.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dr. Let's put aside the Daily Nation and let's come to what's on the front page of the Standard. The outlook is dark page. That is the front page of the Standard newspaper. And what's on the front page? Can you read that, Dr.
Killer squad boss.
Killer squad boss, it's question mark. And the gentleman on the front page is DIG Eliud Lagat. That's on the front page of the the Standard newspaper, beg your pardon. The entire page is in black. When I had a guest here yesterday, Professor Gora said that the dark page signifies or symbolizes the bleeding and the dark nation that is now under some darkness because of what is happening. The Standard says that is Deputy Inspector General of Police Eliud Lagat the man pulling the strings behind a shadowy police hit squad? With influencer Albert Ojwang dead in police custody and 2 more bodies found in, mutilated in Elgeyo Marakwet, outrage is now boiling over. From Parliament to protest lines calls are actually mounting for Lagat to resign and face justice. As the DIG's grip the Titans, a nation demands to know, 1, is Kenya's second-in-command officer of the godfather of extrajudicial terror? That is on the front page of the Standard newspaper. And this story is completely detailed out on page 4, 5, 6, and 7. You can take a look at that for yourself. Do you really need to talk about this? On the front page of the Star, Daktari. So this is according to the Star newspaper. Ojwang tortured into coma in Karura. That is what's on the front page of the Star newspaper. Ojwang tortured into coma in Karura Forest. We all heard and saw what was submitted before the Senate House yesterday, when different institutions, including IPOA, the IG himself was there, the Cabinet Secretary for Interior, Kipchumba Murkomen, who is a lawyer, was also there, admitted that there was a lot of things that happened. But let me give you a quick read on what the Star has outlined here. The Star says that sources close to the ongoing investigation say that between 9:30 p.m., that is and 1:39 a.m., the time of Ojwang's death as recorded in the occurrence book, he was removed from his cell and taken to Karura Forest. That is what's on the front, that is what's on the 4th page of the Star newspaper. The paper continues that the truth is Ojwang was in good condition when booked, but he was moved later that night, tortured, and returned nearly lifeless, according to sources. So, of course, there is that sense of anonymity and privacy. And the Star continues that IPOA Deputy Chairperson Anne Wanjiko confirmed before the Senate that the CCTV system at the Central Police Station, especially near the cell holding Ojwang, was interfered with. According to multiple sources, a private vehicle was used to ferry Ojwang from the station to Karura Forest. Now, this was after the DCI vehicle that had transported him from his home in Homa Bay to Nairobi was discharged. The story continues that inside the forest, he was allegedly beaten unconscious, kicked, punched, and assaulted while still handcuffed by a group of officers, including a senior police officer and his driver. Last but not least, when Ojwang slipped into a coma, his assailants reportedly panicked. Then they bundled him back into the private vehicle and returned him to Central Police Station just after 1 a.m. At 1:39 a.m., Ojwang's death was officially recorded under OB number 9/08/06/2025. That is according to the Star newspaper. You can take a look at your favorite page. Dr. Why don't you just take a break and come back with more? Stay with us.
This Father's Day, tell us why your dad is your hero. Is it his strength, his kindness, or his bad dad jokes? Post a 1-minute video sharing what makes your dad unforgettable. And you could win a one-night staycation at one of these hotels: the Fairview Hotel Nairobi, the Best Western Hotel Upper Hill, or the Holiday Inn Nairobi. Simply tag your 1-minute clip at Y254 on X, Facebook, and Instagram for your chance to win. Choose one of these hotels to also tag in your post, and you could spoil your dad for a night at Holiday Inn Nairobi, at Fairview Hotel Nairobi, and at Best Western Upper Hill. Don't forget to use the hashtag MyKBCDad. Let's celebrate our heroes in style.
They say the earth without art would just be get it? We circumnavigate the globe and traverse the local scene to bring you art and culture at their very best. From fine art, culinary art, performing arts, and even cultural events, you name it, and we have got you covered. My name is Kevin Kasioki, and I will be serving you this and much, much more each and every Friday at 8 p.m. only on KBC Channel 1.
I am joined by 3 phenomenal gentlemen who are pushing past stereotypes, who are turning pain into purpose, and who are redefining what it means to be a father.
Fatherhood is amazing.
That's the one thing I must say about fatherhood.
I enjoy just to connect with my children. I also playing it forward, but also shaping them for the future.
I became a single dad 9 years ago now. And that is the time you really understand, one, the role of a woman in a house. I think for me, the biggest surprise was that fatherhood is more about presence than provision.
Don't Google everything. Go and ask, because fatherhood in the US, fatherhood in Ukambani, fatherhood in Samburu is different.
Honor is your character, that you build your character in such a way that your children would want to be like you.
Welcome back. So today being the 12th day, we are done with the papers. Daktari will come back and talk some more important issues. Of course, anything that we've talked about on the front pages are also important. But today being the day that Kenya is going to be getting a new budget for the next financial year, 2025-2026, a lot is expected of FCPA John Mbadi, who is leading Treasury today. He must be a very proud man, carrying that briefcase and the lapel flower. It's the traditional lapel flower pinned somewhere in your pocket square there, and walking that distance from Treasury to Parliament. I wish Harambee Avenue would have given us a walk or a talk on how many ministers have walked just along that street. All right? Let's talk with Mike Migwi, who is not along Harambee Avenue, but along Haile Selassie Avenue in the CBD, to give us a feel and a sight of the situation in the central business district here in the city. If Mike can get me. Oh yeah, there we have him.
Yes, indeed,
Mike.
Victor. Oh yes, Victor, I'm coming to you live from the intersection of Moi Avenue and Haile Selassie Avenue. We have gotten into the CBD just to get a feel of what Kenyans think about the budget and their expectations, given that today is going to be the day that the CS Treasury is going to present the budget for the financial year 2025-2026. And one of the things that people maybe that will stand out is the fact that this financial year, or the proposed budget, is not introducing new taxes. This is a move from what was witnessed last year, a move of introducing new taxes that brought a very big outcry from Kenya. So this is a deviation from last year, and we just want to get to hear what Kenyans think about the budget, their expectations, and the priorities that they want the government to focus on, or what they hope the government will focus on in terms of priorities. We are talking about education, we are talking about health, we are talking about agriculture, we are talking about just the development of the country. Those are the things that we shall be looking out for, to hear what Kenyans will tell us about. This is a very busy street, and in just a few minutes we'll be talking to Kenyans, and once we get them, we'll be coming to you live from the central business district. Right about now, I take you back to the studio for the continuation of Good Morning Kenya. Victor.
Very well. That is Mike Migwi. And Director, if you look at that background, you can imagine, look at how Kenyans are going about their business. Perhaps before we get Mike out of the shot, take a look at that. Everybody is busy going about their business, Daktari. Kenya is a working nation, and it's 7 a.m., 7:30, and the rush to go and get that daily bread. I'm so sure Mike is going to give us more updates on what they are feeling and what they're talking about out there. We are a hardworking nation. Okay, so Regina, before we come back to Daktari, allow me to ask you this question. The proposed budget, there are certain losers and gainers in this proposed budget. But let me start with the education. First of all, some quarters say that education is going to lose not too much. Okay. All right, Regina, we'll get to you shortly. But Daktari, from an economist point of view, now that taxes are not going to be introduced, and this was one of the biggest problems last year during the Mandamano, all right? Taxes, raising the taxes, but now the pocket was shrinking while the tax regime was getting bigger and wider. Perhaps this is going to be some good news for the consumer.
Could be, it may or it may not, but what I may actually say is that the government will only get funds from only 3 sources to finance its budget. One of the sources is taxes. So they have to make, to levy some taxes to individuals so that they can have and finance their budget. But the second way is actually to get what we call loans. And therefore, if we have some loans, then at that particular time, they can be able to finance their budget. And therefore, the problem if they do not do those 2 things, then what will happen is that they will have a budget deficit, because that budget deficit will have to remain, because they may not have money to finance their budget. And therefore, what we are saying, if we say it is a 0 budget, then what we could be saying, we shall increase our liabilities. We will increase our debts from either internal sources, or we will increase our debts from external sources. That is foreign borrowing and domestic borrowing through treasury bills and all those other stuff. But or alternatively, it simply means that we are going to fail to accomplish some things because we will not be able to accomplish those things, and that is the most likely thing. And therefore, we may not be having taxes, but at the end of it all, we do not have health care. We may not be having taxes, but at the end of it all, we do not have loans. So it is simple as that. Yeah. Is either we get revenue so that we can be able to dispense the budget, or we do not get the revenue and we do not dispense the budget. And that is practically what will happen, especially when we do not have more taxes. But what I am saying is that even if we are saying there are no taxes introduced, we are moving the budget from 3.8 to 4.2.
Yes.
It simply means that there is some extra amount of roughly 30 billion, 40 billion that is actually increasing. And therefore, where are we getting that money from? Could be there are so many hidden things that are inside there that are also causing the government to have some
more hidden things.
Yes.
Before I come to Regina, but then now look at it this way. Is it possible then now to work with what is available than raise taxes? Because if this 4.2 trillion budget is going to be, a proposal, but there's no taxes. So is it possible, Regina, you'll also get into this later, then is it possible even now to moving forward so that we have a predictable kind of a budget where taxes, even if you increase it, with a small margin, but you are still able to raise the budget of the nation?
In fact, that should be the case. I do not know what competition is in for, because it's like every year we have to raise the budget. We have to raise, like from last year, we had raised it. Now we have raised it again to 4.2 trillion.
Yeah.
If you look at Tanzania, they are drawing a budget which is in equivalent to Kenyan money of 900 billion. But right now, as we talk about Tanzania, we are talking about an economy that has grown than us. their GDP has gone higher than ours. And therefore, you can imagine that sometimes we tend to make those budgets. We do not meet revenue targets. We do not do all those things, but we do not minimize expenses also. And therefore, the reason why the budget is actually raised, like from 3.8 to 4.2, the main reason is actually one, so that government money cannot be spent without an approved budget. And therefore what happens is that they raise revenue so that it can also, in the same manner, in the same breath, increase the expenditure. So you'll be realizing people are using money, but there is no revenue. And therefore we have a country that is full of debts and other things. So I believe, as you are saying, if we can be able to live within our means, that would be the most excellent way. Yes, we live within our means. If you are earning a salary of 10,000 or 30,000, then you just need to plan for that salary. You do not need to keep on thinking about planning for 70,000, which you do not have.
You've talked about revenues, and it's also projected that it's going to increase by 8%.
Yes.
But the fiscal deficit will drop by 1%. What do you make of that?
What will happen is that they will decrease. What has happened is that they have decreased the revenue. The taxes could be to 2.8 or thereabout. And when they have decreased that, there are some other things they have done so that it looks like it is okay. But like what I was hearing your colleague talking about, that we are moving from zero return to tax exemption. Which obviously means that there are some people who are supposed to claim some taxes, but they won't claim those taxes from KRA. They are trying to seal those particular loopholes. They are also saying that things like VAT will not be claimed, will not be offset against other taxes. And therefore what happens is that they have a way in which they are trying to balance that so that the figures may work.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Regina, here we have it. So from what you have collected over the year, the comparison, the journey from last year to this year, what do you make of this year's maiden budget speech by John Mbadi?
First of all, Victor, it's going to be his first.
Yes.
Remember, CPA John Mbadi just came in from, a rather more political dispensation in his previous capacity and got to the helm of Treasury there. I'm keen to see even how his style of presentation is going to be, in comparison to the previous cabinet secretaries that we've had. We've had Henry Rotich, we've had Professor Njuguna Ndongo and such, especially his predecessor there. And we are likely to be having a live link from his offices at around 9 a.m. to just have a precursor or a feel of what to expect at the floor of the House, and maybe also to pick his brain on what necessitated, the draft budget 2025-2026. We're also likely to see, or rather have a link, or rather have a conversation with his PS, that is Dr. Kiptor there, Chris Kiptor. He has served in the previous tenure of Professor Njuguna Ndongo, and I think he has a wealth of experience at the helm of Treasury. So we'll be wanting to unpack why the government took the decision that it did. No introduction of new taxes. And I know it's quite the statement when you say we are not introducing new taxes, and I like what our analyst said. We are not introducing new taxes, but we are very heavy on the tax administration cleanup, or rather mop up, because we're seeing several amendments in the finance bill 2025-2026 moving towards that particular direction. In as far as we are not having new taxes, where the decisions and the proposals have serious ramifications on the cost of living, especially where we are moving certain goods from zero-rated to tax-exempt. That is what Kenyans are still grappling with. Because on one end, and I want to quote what Cabinet Secretary John Buddy said earlier this week, he said that the move to move those particular listed items from VAT zero rated to VAT tax exempt is to lower the cost of these particular products. But in a nutshell, as our analyst has said, when you have products on zero rated, maybe we can just take it down, like, let me break it down. So the standard rate of VAT in the country is currently at 16%. And this is paid by the consumer for goods and services. That is you and I, Victor. So zero rated VAT is a tax rate of 0%. You know, businesses can claim VAT refunds on inputs, right? Then when we say exempt VAT, it means no tax charge to the consumer, but businesses cannot claim refunds on inputs. So what this means is that if they cannot claim these particular tax refunds, and this is where the government is, and I think they justified this particular proposal in saying that they have been losing, government has been losing revenue in these tax refunds. Remember, we have seen a shake-up at Times Tower there with the Kenya Authority doing away with unscrupulous employees who have been colluding with unscrupulous traders to just defraud the government on tax on this particular avenue. So we are seeing now them moving these items to this direction to just try and minimize how much government has to give back to you as a business or as a manufacturer. So when government says that this is a move to lower the cost of products, it might not necessarily true, because now businesses, if they cannot claim input, VAT, input on VAT on inputs, it means they're likely to pass that back to you as a consumer. So from one end, it is expected to lower the prices at retail, but then the prices could increase as the businesses now pass those costs to consumers. So the main question would be, even to analysts that you're having here in studio, why are some prices, or why do some prices not drop, you know, even after VAT is removed? And when you talk about the cost of living, why are we not seeing adjustment to the cost of fuel and energy, you know, to be moved from zero rated to cut living costs? Is it possible? You know, is it something that we can actually adopt if we are to lower the cost of living? I'd want to hear from our analyst or our guest.
All right. I mean, based on what you've had there, Daktari, Regina has given us also an overview, a very good one for that matter. But then you look at how the sustainability of this is going to be. Wanjiku, last year, let's just go back a bit. The question that many people talked about was that their views was not captured during the public participation. But this time around, we've seen the Cabinet Secretary doing town hall meetings and public participation with Wananchi. And he said that the voices and the concerns and the inputs of Wananchi this time around has been considered.
Yeah, I think public participation in Kenya requires to be revised because we cannot be claiming to have done public participation and at the same time you find the same Wananchi saying no to the things that we are claiming that public participation has been done. It simply means that could be there is something that has not been done regarding that public participation. But just to talk on what Regina has said, you know, changing that VAT status from zero rated, that is 0%, she has explained very well, into tax exempt, it simply means that you no longer can be asked for tax. Is that, you know, when I am buying a good that is VAT zero rated, it is still vatable, and because it is still vatable, then I am able to claim tax because there is input tax, input VAT tax, and output VAT tax, that is tax on purchases and tax on sales. And therefore the impact of this, and they have said that they will reduce some They will change that status to some medicine equipment, solar equipment, things like animal feeds that will affect agriculture, and e-bikes and electric motor vehicles. What will happen is that, as Regina is actually rightly putting it, is that we are going to have some price increase in those particular commodities. Reason is because especially things like healthcare and things like food, if we exempt them and the person cannot be able to claim, it simply means that the tax will be eventually pushed to the consumer. And because it will be eventually pushed to the consumer, it simply means then that the prices has to increase of those commodities. That simply means then also inflation, the one that we are talking about in Kenya, and they are saying we have been able to reduce inflation, might be affected. Because inflation is simply hiking of prices of consumer goods. And that is what will happen. But also again, what will happen is that we'll discourage some other things in this nation by putting it to VAT exempt. We will discourage things like clean energy, because those are some of the things they are affecting. We'll discourage farmers from producing milk because animal feeds have been affected, and all those other things because of those prices. And therefore, there will not be production in the nation. And when production slows down, then again, it hikes inflation, because it is only one person producing milk. So the milk prices will go up because you become the price maker, not the price taker. That is what will definitely happen.
But what do you make of this? With some people are actually making a proposal that there should be a persistent reduction on budget deficit every year, you know, as a percentage of GDP. How about that?
Yeah, budget deficit requires to be reduced every year. In fact, we should not have budget deficit, because budget deficit simply means that you are working beyond your means. You are saying that you meet costs that are beyond you. And therefore, that I would say it is quite important, because it's the budget deficit that has brought the idea of debts in the nation. Like right now, we are saying that we shall be able to borrow around 591 domestically. And if we are borrowing that amount, billion, if we are borrowing that particular amount domestically, it simply means that the individuals, you and I, cannot be lent freely by the bank, because they will be thinking that we should lend to the state, and therefore the interest rates will definitely not be very okay, and also the loan will not be dispersed very easily to individuals, and therefore what will happen is that we won't have disposable income. So you won't be having enough money in your pocket to buy bread, because not so many people are doing that. So because you won't be having that, then there will be no employment, there will be no those things, and that is what will definitely happen. So things like borrowing, especially, and you know, they have come back again to those domestic borrowing. I believe we should not really encourage it a lot. That is why we should work with minimal budget deficits. Yes.
And of course, one of the biggest threats that we've had was just to settle our foreign debts, which the government really worked on to make sure that the matured loans were cleared right on time. It was a very big scare, Ray. Some of the external debts that the government had, and we had to rush against time so that we don't fall in that bracket of defaulters. You can remember that, Regina?
Yes. So when you talk about public debt management, or rather debt management and debt servicing, if you look at even the proposed budget 2025-2026 there, it indicates that government intends to borrow at least 684.2 billion shillings domestically, while external borrowing is capped for the moment at 146.8 billion. So the whole total is around 831 billion shillings. That's the budget deficit that we have for the proposed budget 2025-2026.
Yes.
I want to take you back to 2025-2026, 2024-2025, where the public debt was approximately 70% as of June 2024. And the debt service was 1.8 trillion, consisting of 1.26 in domestic and 591 billion externally. There's been calls, from tax experts as well as economists that we stop calculating debt as a percentage to GDP and instead focus on the real GDP, right? When you listen to Treasury and government say that our debt is still within manageable ranks, yet we are seeing our rating already, even with the IMF and the World Bank, saying that we are rather on the red and in shaky ground. And clearly we are also seeing government, as it borrows, it also has to adhere to some of the guidelines. For example, this particular mop-up of the tax administration focusing on VAT, it is part of conversations and agreements that the government got in with IMF for a loan facility that it is pursuing, to just try and ensure that it raises the required revenue. And I like what Dr. has said, is that even other external forces are pushing the country, or rather Kenya, towards more fiscal consolidation and, prioritized kind of spending, so that we can reduce our debt. If we look at our debt ceiling right now, I think we are beyond. We just have very little wiggle room to borrow more. And when it comes to if government is going to be going to the markets, either externally or internally, when the government goes to the markets internally, that is a domestic market, it means that it is likely to crowd the private sector. Last week, like over 48 hours ago, that was the day before yesterday, we had the MPC meeting, and CBK for actually the 2-year time low lowered the CBR rate, that is a central bank lending rate. And, remember we had the last one at 15.4%. This is a move that the MPC has said is geared towards unlocking credit to the private sector. However, lenders, these are banks, are still not passing the buck, or rather that benefit, that relief to private sector. Why? I mean, one of the reasons has been mentioned by, I guess this morning, Victor, is because banks opt to do business with government. And even from the numbers as we're looking at, with around 831 billion shillings as a deficit, and us intending to borrow domestically to the numbers of 684 billion shillings, from where I sit, if I would be the devil's advocate, for the banks.
Yes.
It's a sure bet. Why not invest with government? And it is also supported by the numbers that we have been given by Central Bank, indicating that there has been an uptick in non-performing loans to the highs of 17.6%. It means that in as much as even banks have adopted risk-based lending, first, it has locked out private sector and startups because, they are more riskier. Now, the risk-based lending looks at you, Victor, if your capacity to pay, willingness to pay, and your credit history.
Yes.
If you are a risky borrower, you're likely to pay, you're going to pay a higher premium or a higher interest on the loan or credit facility that you're after. This is one way of just de-risking lending that banks has adopted. But then we also have government going to the markets with such huge numbers. So banks are opting to do business with government because with government, you will always get your money.
Okay.
So now there's that balance when it comes to matters of debt management. And we are still not feeling that effect even. And that's why we're not feeling the effect per se of the lowering of the central bank rate now that is currently that is instituted around at 15. You know, we are down to by 25 basis points as per the MPC at 9.75%. So if you do a quick math, is that in the markets right now, we are looking at interest rates of around 15.4%. I don't know if you remember a time where interest rates were as high as 25%.
Yeah, there was a lot of protests across the country. I mean, it was so hard to get a facility from a bank because it was so high. And that was the point that we had an upsurge of digital lending apps, which was a big threat even to the traditional banks that we had in the country. All right, Regina and Dr. Why don't you take a break and we come back? We are now told that Mike Migwi is along Harambee Avenue. Please, you'll give us a walk of fame when we come back. Talk to us and walk from Treasury to Parliament. Mike Migwi will be doing that shortly after this. Stay with us.
Dear God, please protect Snow.
How did he even get out of your sight? What were you doing with her? Are you trying to make a child your accomplice? Wait.
Grandpa,
I don't want to ever see you with that letter again.
I just needed some air, that's it.
you should have said that.
Y'all don't care about me.
No matter how much you try to destroy my dad's name, I will be here to protect it.
JJ is finished.
How can you guard something that's already destroyed?
No, over my dead body, no.
Today we'll be talking about overcoming temptation, living in a world of sin. There are many challenges, temptations that come our way.
God anakupenda tu venye uko, just the way you are. So you don't need to do anything for God to love you more, and you don't need to do anything less for God to love you less.
If you are in Christ, you can be in the world, but whatever is in the world will not get into you.
The budget 2025-2026 is here with us once again. That is how the country is going to get money for development. But, Doctor, when you look at what is in the state's 700 billion shillings development budget, it has been cut or reduced by 3.5 billion shillings. Some would say that that's not so much for the government, for development purposes. But when you look at some of the losers, which are being proposed to, not losers per se, but losers who are not going to get a certain amount of money. Some monies were picked from some development projects or from some departments to others. If you look at that variation, would it not make those other departments to drop in terms of development or progress while raising the other one? For example, education. What has it that education is going to get some beating, slightly?
Yeah, I think one of the areas that I think the government should think and rethink again regarding this particular budget is actually education.
Yeah.
Reason is because education has been suffering for quite some time. We may be saying that we are giving it some budget. Remember the university funding model. You also remember there's a free secondary and education and free primary education. Teachers all over are claiming that they are not getting enough funds and capitation from the government. And therefore, and even right now, what we are talking about, I highly suspect the highest budget, the biggest budget will be about the building of those particular classrooms and such kind of things. And what will happen actually is we might cripple the operations, and the parents will continue paying fees instead of the government subsidizing the way it has said. What I usually say is that why can't we just call it paid education? Because it is like we are paying the same amount we were paying initially before the free education was put in place. But that notwithstanding, we are saying that education should be properly funded because it is what is producing manpower for our nation. You know, there has been a lot of people moving out to other places, also brain drain. And we have also industries that are not, they are closing down because of the hard economic situation. That is why could be an education system could be and may go wrong in this particular nation, especially given if we go by those particular trends, given about 5, 10 years, 15 years, we might not be having enough experts to do what we are doing because right now people are just focusing on skills.
Okay. I want to ask this question to both of you, Regina and Daktari. What is so unique about this budget? What is so unique about it? You know, that my kinsmen back in the village can look at it and say, okay, was it because it was drafted by an accountant, not an economist? Regina?
I think you just threw me under the bus. Anyway, but before I even answer your question, Victor, we were talking about the winners and would-be losers in this proposed budget. And I'd want to hear from Daktari what he thinks about the proposed budgetary allocation to the counties. Over the last 2 years, we have seen the Council of Governors up in arms wanting an increased budgetary allocation to support some of its developments as well as its operations. So what is your take, Dr. on the proposed budgetary allocation to counties in the budget?
What I would say about those allocations is that there are some particular areas that have been actually been strangled as far as this particular budget is concerned. And they will adversely affect the service delivery to mwananchi. Like when we talk about issues to do with public administration, that one it is the one that deals with those independent bodies. And we know things like we were talking earlier about IPOA and all those other areas. They are affected by that particular kind of budgeting. And therefore, you see, strangling such particular budget is not okay. But also we are saying about the healthcare, they have said they have increased the budget for the healthcare and all those other things. But as we are saying, this idea of the VAT moving from zero return to tax exempt, it is actually also beating the logic. And because it is beating the logic, are we doing what we ought to do as far as providing the UHC is concerned? And that one could be also another problem. And when we talk about also the budget for the healthcare, that which has been increased, it is basically funded too much from the appropriation in aid. That means the money that we are collecting from the SHA and all the other charges that are levied in the hospital. It simply means that we are funding such an important function through a very unpredictable source of revenue, because we do not know how many people will pay. We do not know whether people will, it is political, it can be political, people can be told not to pay. And therefore, putting such a function on such a kind of unpredictability is also not very good. We have also seen the presidency that has been given some money. They have said that they have lowered the budget for the president, but in actual sense, it is only that it has been broken down a lot. Also with the advisors getting their big chunk, we are also getting the State House renovation. The State House was just built the other day, and we are again doing some renovation in the same State House. The Deputy President office, we have some funds that are called General Works, which we may not really tell where they are supposed to go, and such kind of things. It is, those are some of the allocations that I am not feeling a little bit comfortable with, though they are also saying they have increased the rates for the judiciary, the executive, and also the consolidated fund. But you know, the consolidated fund is the one that we use to pay loan interest that we have. It is the one that we use to pay the salaries of government workers. But it has increased simply because of a few things. It has increased because we are taking more loan, could be. And that is what they are proposing about.
And Ray, just to point on that, to be exact, I think the governors wanted 536 billion shillings.
Yes.
In this current financial year, but then they've only been given 405.1 billion shillings. So, of course, you know, they raised so many issues and many concerns as to why they wanted that, you know, that money to be raised to 536 and not 4.4 or 5. You know, the tough economic times, and some issues to do with the salary payment to the counties. Some counties were not getting enough money from their own source revenue, and it was now stifling some of the development in the counties. But Regina, I asked that question of what makes it a bit unique this time around.
I will answer when I give you, after I've given you the figures right now. You know, when it comes to counties, counties have been agitating, yes, for 500 billion. But now, according to the revenue CRA, it has recommended an equitable share of 417.4 billion shillings, while Treasury has proposed 405.1 billion. The equalization fund is now at 10.6 billion and additional conditional allocation. So if you look at what counties are going to be taking home, is around the numbers of 479 point something billion shillings. And we are waiting to see which direction they are going to take. Is it either going to be following the CRA, the third basis, or not? Remember, there's been a lot of haggling there in terms of the CRA, some arguing that these monies are not quite enough. They said actually it's 474.9 billion. That is equitable share plus equalization fund as well as additional allocations. Now the equalization fund targets marginalized counties, and this year it is at around 10.6 billion shillings. So we are seeing counties actually get the sum there. They may not agree because of the issues that you have raised there, but from where I sit, I think they are a part of the main beneficiaries or winners in this particular proposed budget, as it is if it was to sail in its current form. Now, what is unique about this budget? First, what came out is it is very lean. As we said, does not introduce taxes, but rather focuses on tax administration, mopping up especially the VAT there. Remember, government does not generate its own money. It relies on revenues, especially taxes, you know. Secondly, it is the implementation of the proposed amendments. Keen to note is a majority of these particular amendments are set to take effect on the 1st of July. This is a deviation from the past where we've been seeing this coming into place maybe 1st of September, but we're seeing this coming up quite soon. If you ask me, and this Dr. can confirm, or you know, I want to pick his brain, then why are we having this kind of schedule of implementation of the proposed amendments as opposed to what we've had in the previous years? What do you think has informed this, Dr.
Yeah, I agree with you that this particular budget could be is about administration, and it is quite political according to me in nature, because it has taken into consideration the protests that we had last year, and the protests were actually based on the increases in tax. And because they were based on the increases in tax, that is why there has been that notion that they should do proper and improve on tax administration and collection. But I have a simple problem with that because there are some holes I am seeing in that particular area. Number one, it is increased inequality in this particular budget. There has been some inequality that has been put, because if you look at this budget, it disobeys one principle of tax that is called proportionality. When we say that we are raising we are raising the per diem, the 2,000 to 10,000 taxable, it simply means that we are exempting the rich from paying the taxes, and therefore it is focusing on those that are rich. But the principle of tax says that if you are earning more, you should pay more taxes. That is something that it is doing. But if you also look at some tax rates that have been changed, like those of the special economic zones, what happens is that those people who are in special economic zones, they are the people that are well connected politically. And therefore, when we say we are reducing those taxes, what happens is that we are reducing taxes because they are politically connected. And also things like steel products. Steel products, obviously we are doing the affordable housing projects. It is encouraging in one way or another, but they have reduced the export and investment promotion levy from, I think, 17.5 to 10%. That promotes importers. It is promoting the importers. A common mwananchi will not do the importing of such particular things. And again, what are we doing to our local particular manufacturers who are producing the same? It simply means we are fighting against those common local mwananchi who is in that particular business, and going and allowing some imports to come. So I think such kind of things, they are the ones that I think, even if we are talking about tax administration, could be it is relieving the elite, and it is not taking care a lot of common money.
Mike Migwi is at ground zero, and we'll be getting to talk to him very shortly. That is along Harambee Avenue, If possible, I will also ask him to give us that walk of fame. Yes, he's not the CS, but that walk of fame from Rambe Avenue, of course, from Treasury to Parliament. I just talked to Wananchi in that field. But let me give you a quick breakdown here. So we all know that the proposed budget stands at 4.24 trillion or 3 trillion. That's total budget, of which 1.789 trillion shillings will go to the recurrent expenditure. That is right, Regina? And then we also have the question of how this is going to be sustained, all right? And I agree with both of you that the budget will be financed through revenues, while the balance between the revenues and budget, that is a fiscal deficit, will be financed through borrowing. Revenues ordinarily, that is revenue and ministerial approach in aid, of which now they're looking at having some from the local borrowers and of course borrowed from the international lenders. So then you said that this is an accountant's mind of fixing this budget, not an economist.
Yeah, you know, the CS Treasury is an accountant, and accountants are good at figures.
You are part and parcel of this group. How do they think?
I'm also an accountant.
What runs through your mind?
Accountants are very good at figures. They know the implications of figures. And you remember also CS Kimunya. Then they were called ministers for finance.
Yes.
Was also an accountant, and he was able to do very well during Kibaki's time as far as budget is concerned. I believe economists will look at an entire overview of the economy.
Yes.
But the accountants will look at the implications of the figures. And that is that is the difference between Professor Njogona Ndongo and
But why do you keep
Badi.
on talking about President Mwai Kibaki as an economist?
Because it was a good combination.
Between an accountant
between
and
an accountant
economist.
and yes. It was a very good combination because obviously Kibaki wouldn't see the bigger picture. But Kimunya wouldn't see the figures, wouldn't translate the big picture into figures. And that is why you are seeing this budget, as Regina is saying, that it is purely a budget that has said that it won't increase the taxes. But you can see the budget has soared from 3.8 to 4.2. It is, why has it gone up and there are no excess? And you look at
that means, Regina and Dr. that whatever we are collecting as a nation is enough to sustain. We are able to sustain ourselves then.
It is enough. The only thing that we need to do is to just
tighten
those loopholes here and there, because there is a lot of wastage. There is a lot of wastage. Like who said, during Moi's time, we could see the president going via road greeting Wananchi. But right now, you find 3 helicopters that are going with one person, and it is all about money. I know it is efficient, and I know we should have that. But again, there is a lot of spillage of the same. We cannot have State House renovation. We were able to build it the other day and change it the other day. So it is also a problem. We have some unconstitutional offices that have been put in place and duplication of roles. Like, why should we have a Department of Agriculture in the national government and the same is devolved in the county government? Why shouldn't we have county governments being allocated just around
500 billion.
500 billion, which is roughly 10%. And when they are allocated 4 or 5 billion, they are allocated that particular amount, and they have 10 functions, whereas the national government has only security and basic education. Why should we have such disparity?
Someone would argue that counties also have on-source revenue.
again,
which is never enough.
Those collections in the own source revenues in the counties have a lot of spillage. Counties are also worse in terms of the spillage of finances. You have seen also those governors when they are going to the Senate.
Yeah.
You have seen how money has been lost, like a governor having a chunk of advisors. Why shouldn't you have 30 advisors, 20 advisors? We put them in a budget of 1.37 billion. Why shouldn't we have such particular advisors around? You know, all those are spilling because 1.37 billion would construct a road many kilometers. Why can't we just have, and ministers are out there to advise the president or to advise the governor? So I believe there are some things that we have put on ourselves that are really eating away our budget, and we can reduce those those figures very well.
All right. Regina, the difference and the difference between an economist and an accountant. Yeah, they're two different.
I like that comparison there, an economist vis-a-vis an accountant, and we'll be getting back to that particular conversation because you have raised a few issues, especially in terms of the push in its government is working to put in place or rather adopt austerity measures. They're saying this, but doing totally different. That's what Dr. has said, and we're going to be looking at even what the Controller of Budget revealed in its in his report. So we want to take you to the streets where Mike Megwe is already in CBD, a beehive of activity there. Kenyans going about their businesses. Budget day or not, we got to put food on our table. To you, Mike, how does it feel on ground? What are Kenyans saying in regard to the expectations of the presentation of the budget this afternoon? To you, Mike, good morning.
Good morning, Regina. Good morning, Regina. We are right here in front of the Treasury building where the Treasury CS is expected to come. The mood here is palpable and the weather outside here is a little bit cold. It keeps on fluctuating, but really Kenyans are going about their business, and it is expected that the CS will be coming here in not so long, not so a time that is so far away, but really this is where everything is happening. The mood here, there's a music playing behind me, and also in front of me is the famous Harambee Avenue, the road that has been walked by many finance ministers of this country. And today, CS John Badi is going to present that budget, walking down the same road to present the same budget to Kenyans in expectations that this will the expectations of Kenyans really is that this will alleviate or make sure that the life, the cost of living is going down. Some of the focused sectors that are supposed that will receive much attention comes to education, which will receive around 7 and 19 billion, and also health, which will get around over 200 billion monies that will strongly emphasize emphasize on universal health coverage. Remember, that is one of the reasons or the core pillars of the bottom-up economic transformation agenda of the Kenya Kwanza government. The money will also go to enhancing county-level facility upgrades and also bolstering local pharmaceutical capacity. A total of 444 billion will be dedicated to energy and infrastructure. Those are some of the focused sectors that Kenyans are looking forward to see how it will turn out. But more importantly is the fact that this time round there are no new taxes that are going to be introduced in this budget. This is something that is a deviation from what happened last year when Kenyans rose up and rejected the proposed taxes that were there, and indeed the government listened and did away with the finance bill altogether. So today, the Kenyans, we are going to hear how Kenyans, or the expectations of Kenyans regarding this budget, and some of them just the ones that have managed to talk with off camera, some of them did not even know today that the budget will be presented. Some of them did not know that today will be the day that CS Treasury Mbadi is going to present the budget to Kenyans in not a time that is not so far away. I'll be showing you the road in which that the CS Treasury will be going down to Parliament. If my camera person can follow me, we'll be talking. This is where Harambee Avenue is the road that the CS Treasury will be going down to Parliament. The budget to the people of Kenya. This is down this road which leads to Parliament. I don't know if my camera person can get that shot, but really this is where we expect that the CS Treasury, who is not so far away from coming to this office, will be coming here to prepare and get back to go to Parliament and just present the budget today. We'll be sampling just the views of a few Kenyans who will be to just get what they think of the budget, given now that one of the things that stands out from all this budget is that there are no new taxes that will be introduced in the new financial year, that is 2025-2026. Right about now, I want to take you back to the studio where Regina and Victor are continuing with the analysis of the proposed budget of 2025-2026. Remember, the budget will be read from around 2:30 in the Parliament building, and CS Mbadi will be doing that later on in the day. I want to take you back to studio where Victor and Ray Manyara are doing a live analysis of the proposed budget in the financial year 2025-2026. Over to you, Ray.
Mike, for that, setting the pace of what is happening. Clearly, Kenyans are going about their businesses. A majority of them are not even aware that today National Treasury Cabinet Secretary John Mbadi is going to be making his maiden presentation of the 4 trillion shillings proposed budget for the fiscal year 2025-2026. Come 2:30, we are going to be live from the Parliament buildings. And before then, we're just going to unpack this particular budget that has already been termed different by so many other quarters, including economists, tax experts, and the likes. And what is curious is that there are no new taxes. And a majority of questions that are being posed on our social media platforms, which you too can be part and parcel of this conversation, is if there are no taxes that are introduced in this proposed budget, does it mean that the cost of living goes down? That's the main question. That is what Wanjiko needs to know. More money to my pocket or less money in my pocket? And that is what we are trying to unpack for you. Then a curious case here. Last year, right outside Treasury, there was a bit of an incident where a human rights activist nearly wanted actually to take down the briefcase. And I'd want to know from Victor and my guest this morning, if that man had managed to get hold of that particular briefcase, do we have, was it a dummy? Was it the original? What would happen? Is it similar to the maze that if we put it down, we do not have a session, so to speak? What happens if the briefcase actually, someone takes it away? That is something to consider. What do you think? What's your thought, Victor?
That's a good question. Because even in the past, we used to think that that briefcase was a bulletproof briefcase. And in our weird thinking, we thought that
well, it seems, Victor, even the system is a bit confused about what happens, or rather what is contained in that briefcase.
Yes.
If should it go missing, will we have a budget or not? As we work on your mic so that we can get to hear you better, I'm posing this question to our guest this morning. What do you think would happen if someone just managed to get hold of that briefcase? What does it mean, really? Is the document there in the briefcase, or do we just do this symbolic presentation because it's just for symbolism? You know, I'm just trying to imagine If those attempts to take the briefcase were ever successful, what it would mean?
Yeah, thank you, Regina. I just think that the briefcase is just ornamental. It is something that has been assembled from the time we started seeing the budgets being read by finance ministers in this republic. And I think it just contains the papers. It just contains the papers that it goes to the parliament to read. And once it is taken, I think we can get some other replacement of the papers. They can print more. And they can get also another briefcase, because I believe it is not one. So it is not such a big deal. It is not quite something that is big, but you know, it's something that we have cherished over years, because there has been ornamental. It has been something that we have placed value. We do not believe that it is a budget unless we see that briefcase being raised by the finance minister.
At the stairs at the National Treasury there. So it's good to know that nothing would happen. Nothing is likely to stop the presentation of the budget, whether the briefcase is there or not. We already have this. Remember, we've been doing public participation on the proposed budget there. Another question to you, sir. You mentioned earlier that this budget appears to be more political. Yes, and I'd want to hear why you think or why you said that. Kindly elaborate on that.
Yeah, I said that it could be a little bit political because, one, we have had the budget last year bringing some bit of protest. You remember during that exercise, we had some Gen Z's protests that were here in these parliament buildings, and I believe that is the reason I said it is political, because they had the trigger for those protests were actually hiking taxation, and therefore because there are no hikes in taxation right now, that is why they are saying that is why I'm saying it could be political to political to a great extent, because it was tailored with the name of telling people that we have heard that your pay slip has been overtaxed. We have heard that your matters have been housing levy has been there. All those things have been there. So they are saying no more taxes. Why? Because we do not want you to protest. We do not want you to think that we are oppressing you. And therefore, at one particular time, it is political. It is something that is political. If you look at some of the things that they have said, like you said, taxes where it favors the politically connected, then automatically that makes it a little bit political. So I believe those were some of the reasons. And if you look at some allocations, like you look at the State House and the allocations and the money that has been released there, so that it can go, it can be used, then automatically you know that we intend also to have the president traversing throughout the country. It is political. That is why I saying that.
Yeah.
All
right. Okay, Ray. The picture you're seeing there, there's a live picture from the Treasury. Today is that is a ground zero where everything will happen, and Mike Migwi and of course some of our colleagues will be live from a different location later. That is where everything happens. But Mike said that some Kenyans are not even aware that today is a very important day in the history, in the calendar of the country, and everybody just going about their business. I think, which is still okay. And there were to have it. And now, Regina, you asked a question that what would really happen if someone snatched that briefcase away from from the bearer, okay? I don't think there would be anything, but it could cause some kind of a scare, national scare. Remember, the process of preparing that speech is so tedious. It takes months. In fact, the moment that budget is ready today, a new process begins almost immediately. True or false, Regina?
That is true.
So it's a tedious process, and it's symbolic. And I want to take you back because this was just, we borrowed this tradition from our colonizer, the British, because they also used to carry the same when they were presenting their budget. And I will tell you a very brief story. When the first ever finance minister, that is James Gishuru, inadvertently forgot his briefcase in a that budget, the briefcase, way back in 1963, 1969, after having one or two, the briefcase was left and then some people were sent. I'll tell you that story shortly. But then now, when you look at the history, I think the ministry or the treasury has a backup, just in case.
Yes.
All right, just in case. So that briefcase is ceremonial. It symbolizes what is contained. That is basically the heartbeat of the nation today, what is going to guide the country for the next 1 year. So whatever is there, you see the way it's meticulously crafted, and there is that coat of arms. It doesn't host, nobody has a name on it. Whether you're the minister, there's that coat of arms of the nation that represents what's going to be happening. So when you look at, it's quite iconic, basically. When a minister comes out, carries it there, as a few photos, and then walks. Then, when you look at what our colonizers used to do, for them, they used to call it Gladstone box, all right? Gladstone box, which was named after Prime Minister William Ewart Gladstone. So for them, Kenya similarly also copied that from our big boy, all right? And now we also had the same. So let me put it this way. There's a day when James Gishuru, way back in 1963 and 69, forgot the briefcase somewhere, all right, after one too many. And people had to be sent to go and retrieve it. Of course, it was found, but there was a bit of some scare during that point. Regina, there are some people who have been so privileged to have or to hold that office. Since 1963 to date, now today, we are witnessing this. Just to name but a few is James Gishuru. We've also had Mwai Kibaki, all right? Arthur Magugu. We also had George Saitoti. Musalia Mudavadi, who is now the current Prime Cabinet Secretary, Musalia Mudavadi. Simeon Nyachae was also there. We also had Francis Masakalia, if you can remember him. We also had Chris Okemo, the gentleman, Chris Obure, David Mwiraria, and your friend Amos Kimunya, of course. We also had John Mishuki, if you rattle a snake. Remember that famous quote. Uhuru Kenyatta, if you don't, when he was also in the treasury, we also remember
the mistake, the costly typo.
The typos,
the
all right?
Costly typo, the
computer
typo.
error, yes. Njero Githai was also there. Henry Rotich, quite recently. Ukuri Yatani, during the last regime. And Njuguna Ndungwe, and now we have FCPA John Mbadi. So there is one thing, out of all this list, what do you think it is, Regina?
All of them happen to be male?
Thank you. Why? I don't know. We can't answer that question. Since 1963 to date, we've never had a cabinet secretary or minister of finance. Something has to happen.
Well,
we've had, since 1993, we've had almost close to 15 names here.
I think,
Daktari.
I think now it beats the logic that what men can do, men can also do better.
Regina, can we float your name somewhere?
I wouldn't want to be seated on that seat, though. Not with the current
You
macro
fit the
and
crown.
micro. No,
You fit the crown, Ray.
No. This crown, I pass it until things actually regulate.
Yes.
Because if you look at this particular budget and what Wanjiko is asking, and we're getting this feedback also on our X handle, that is at KBC Channel 1. The question is then, is the cost of living going to come down?
Yeah.
And that is why I'm going to pose this question to you, Dr. John Mukundi. And that is our guest, Dr. John Mukundi, who is an accountant, stroke economist. You see, Kenyans are expecting that this particular budget is going to lower the cost of living. From where you sit, is it going to lower the cost of living, Dr.
I think this budget will not lower the cost of living because of several reasons. One of the reasons is, private sector will have to suffer because when we talk about some funds that have been removed from the development money, and we have always been talking about the pending bills. It simply means that if we have the pending bills, then it is Mwananchi who supplies services to the government. And if their bills are not paid, they will continue suffering. Some of them could be they obtained loans so that they can be able to pay. And our pending bills have continued to soar high. And I believe that is something that will make also Mwananchi to be affected by this particular thing. Then also, I am seeing a subdued credit. There is the banks will not be able to give loans for the reasons that we mentioned earlier on about loans. The banks, there is a huge chunk that the government is borrowing domestically, and because it is borrowing domestically, it simply means that there will be subdued credit. And when we have subdued credit, then it simply means people cannot develop on their own. And when they cannot be able to develop on their own, then it becomes a problem. And also, we won't be having a lot of disposable income, so money may not be circulating. Remember, pending bills have not been paid. Remember, we are paying more taxes. Remember, non-development. Development is when we have a lot of money being released by the government to the contractors and so many people. So it will have that particular issue. And then we are saying this budget, about 1.37 of it, it is actually going to paying loans. We have had, even the president has gone on record saying almost 60–70% of all the tax we collect is going to service the loans that we have. That simply means that we are left with very little as far as our development is concerned. And therefore, you can see the government was strained to a great extent. And as Victor was saying, that we need to work hard so that we do not get into the defaulters list. That is what I would say regarding this particular thing. And also, Mwananchi will suffer because of weak services, weak service delivery. There will be some services that will not, if the economic status goes under, then there are some services that will not be offered freely. And therefore, those are some of the things. You have seen some cuts in some budgets and like education, as you're saying, like in all those other areas. So you can imagine that that one will be a problem as far as Mwananchi is concerned.
Thank you very much, Daktari, for that response. And just to sum it up and to bring in, when you talk about pending bills, we also can't forget talking about the wage bill. Now, currently under the proposed budget 2025-2026, Recurrent spending, which includes civil servant salaries and operations, is set at 1.7 trillion shillings, accounting for 41% of the budget. Now, the figures also indicate that public payroll, public officers' payroll rose from 75 billion in December of 2024 to 80 billion in January 2025. So roughly, we are looking at around 960 billion, if sustained, per month, annually, on wages alone. I pose this question to you, Victor, as well as our guest, Dr. Mukundi there. Government is saying that it is focusing on austerity measures. But with the numbers, as we said, we look at the numbers. Is it saying more than it is doing? What are the actualities on ground? The wage bill is there. We're looking at around 960 billion annually if this is sustained. What's your take, Dr. Ari?
Yeah, I think the wage bill is quite huge. And if it has to make any measure, any austerity measures, then I believe there are some areas it requires to really touch. There are some offices that have been put in place, and we heard the president at one particular time saying that there are some parastatals that will have to be scrapped away and some will be merged. That will definitely lower the wage bill that we have. And you see, that one could also cause a problem because so many people will definitely be affected by the same particular process. But you know, we cannot be able to live with the current wage bill. And because what Constitution actually allows is around 35%. If it is beyond 45%, it is too far beyond. But you see, those things are being brought about by things like those advisors that we are putting in place. They are brought about by, could be the ministries that should not be there. Like, you know, the Constitution allows that we can have around 10 ministries. We can have very few ministries. But why should you place ministries that are too huge, too many, to a point whereby we have a lot of cost centers, but they are not revenue centers. So it becomes a problem, especially when we come to those particular things. So I believe we have to be determined. If we have to move with this budget, we have to be determined and we have to purpose that we are going to change and we are going to move from that particular huge budget into a budget that is affordable to us as Kenyans.
Yeah, just to add on top of that, I think even the government, sometimes there have been some calls to expand the production base in terms of productivity and just to work on the tax regime. I mean, the tax versus the production bit of it. And I think that's what FCP Mbadi has done. He's reduced taxes and now he's going to work on the revenue. Another thing that I think should also be done is to make digital collection of revenue, which the government has actually done. Some of the revenue collections are now digitalized in such a way that it seals the loopholes that have been there for quite too long. Some of the counties have also copied the same, all right? Taxes, you know, paying of levies, land rates, etc., are done digitally. Some of the issues that actually even right now the government is doing is to seal the loopholes when it comes to procurements, all right, which will be done digitally. So when you look at some of these steps that the government probably is making, would make it so easier to have that money trail when it comes to collection of revenue and usage of the resources that the government has collected. And then lastly is to have, what Dr. has said, is to have a lean civil service. I remember the government has also been working on the retirement age, that once you've reached that retirement age, you go home and then, you know, work on the a lean civil service and then also merge some of these parastatals to make them more productive ones, or those are the other ones that had duplicating kind of roles were to be merged into one. So I think those are some of the steps that the government can do to work on that. So Regina, a very quick one. We also talked about how the government is also planning to fund the proposed budget. And according to Mbadi, there is the figures that will be borrowed locally stands at 591.9 billion shillings to be borrowed locally to bridge the deficit and the gap, and 284.2 billion shillings will be borrowed from international lenders. When you look at the figures, the local borrowing versus the international borrowing, look at that figure. From 500 local to 200 international. That's a very big difference. What does that show you, Regina?
All right. Now, actually, the figures, the revised figures, look like 642.
That's local borrowing?
Domestic, as well as now 146 external.
Yes.
This, we had...
that is a very big variation.
It is. And from the onset is that government is now switching from expensive credit to more affordable. They're seemingly likely moving to longer credit provisions, or rather what we call multilateral loans instead of commercial loans that are more expensive. And talking about that particular debt, it also brings us to the issue of what is international community, or what is our standing in as far as debt management and debt servicing is concerned. So the direct impact of increased borrowing locally, it means it is going to crowd out the private sector. We have seen the central bank, even with the MPC, just 2 days ago, lowering the central bank lending rate by 25 basis points to around 9.75%. This is to just catapult, or rather just create a spillover effect among lenders to push them towards giving affordable, or rather offering affordable lines of credit to the private sector. However, there's little that has happened in that particular space, and now we are having the regulator, that is CBK, calling out even these particular banks to ensure that they pass this particular relief to the private sector. Because if private sector does not have wiggle room, monies, or rather liquidity, it means the business will not grow. If businesses do not transact, then it means government cannot earn from the taxes that the business make on the levies and such. So it's a cycle, and that needs to be done. Now, borrowing externally, we are looking at around 146 billion, 146.8 billion shillings. That is what the government intends to borrow from external sources. As it is, as of June, we were looking, June 2024, that is, we were looking at public debt being at 70% of GDP. This is against the proposed figures of around 55% GDP. We will get back to the calculations of that, and that why it is important and what economists as well as tax experts are saying. But we want to take you to Parliament buildings, where the action is going to be taking place this afternoon, and we're joined by my colleague, none other than Abdiaziz Hashim. What is the status report at Parliament buildings? To you, Hashim.
Well, Regina, good morning to you and our viewers. We're coming to you live from Parliament buildings. The MPs are trickling in, but Regina, important to note is that the legislators are currently in various committees across the Bunge Towers as well as the County Hall. More particular is one of the Inspector General of Police that is just behind us here at County Hall. We'll be going there live once more as and when we finish this particular link. But of importance is that the government today will be presenting its 4.2 trillion budget here to the legislators, just expounding on where the plan of the government will be situated at, especially from various parts, including education, health, agriculture, which of course is the key driver for the better plan that is being put in place by the Kenya Kwanza administration. But also the legislators were also raising concerns over the various budget cuts. You do know that various ministries are also up in arms. They were presenting their budget policy statements here before their various committees, and they were asking for more money. Now, this was precipitated by the various austerity measures that was put in place by the current administration following the demonstrations and the withdrawal of the finance bill of 2024. You do know the government was aiming to collect revenue through that particular finance bill. That's why you can see the difference with this current finance bill, where the exchequer led by CS John Badia clearly stating that this particular finance bill seeks to create equity not only through the MDAs but the state corporations across the country. Also important to note is that the government has heavily banked once again on the education sector, with the education sector, of course, the overall winner, as per usual, receiving over 700 billion. But a conversation we were having with the education stakeholders, they were clearly stating that that is not enough. You do know that as much as you're being given more, the money is still not enough to fund the various key initiatives that is being funded in that particular sector, including the competency-based curriculum, also the senior school selection when it comes to grade 9, 10, all the way to 12. Also, the government has put a lot of money when it comes to the agricultural sector, banking heavily on the subsidized fertilizer to allow farmers to go back to the farms and ensure the surplus are in plenty. Also in the security sector, they have reaped, especially for the Ministry of Defense as well as the Ministry of Interior, given that they're leading various operations across the country, including the Maliza Uhalifu and other initiatives that are being spearheaded by the National Police Service as well as the Kenya Defense Forces across the country. Also important to note, Regina, this particular day comes in the backdrop of the various reports that have been issued by the Controller of Budget in just yesterday, where she clearly stated that the national government as well as the county government, how they prudently used that particular funds for the first 9 months of the financial year of 2024-2025. Now, important to note is that the Controller of Budget is clearly stating that pending bills of expenditure on domestic and foreign travels, as well as other expenses that are not warranted, were being used to, of course, foot the bills of their various initiatives. But the Controller of Budget is clearly stating that if those resources are directed to where they're supposed to go, at the end of the day, it will benefit the Kenyans who are expected to benefit from that particular initiative. As and when these particular legislators will be trickling out of their various committees, majority of them, I've just informed you, are here at County Hall. They are visiting, they are participating in a committee of security matters related to the National Assembly, where they'll be querying the Inspector General of Police as well as IPOA in regards to the death of Albert Ojwang. You do remember that extensive session that happened yesterday in the Senate will be following up as and when those particular legislators will be leaving those particular committees. There are about 12 of them. Will be conversing with them one after the other, given that the ministries were before them in their various committees. They were asking for more money, including, more importantly, we're also interested in the ICT department. You do know the ICT department is where even the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation is situated at. We'll be linking up with the chair of that particular committee, that is Dagoretti South Member of Parliament, that is John Kiari. On this part of the country, he's known as KJ. But for now, before Regina, I hand it over to you, I want to take it to Mike Mwigu, who's currently outside the National Treasury. You do know the custom, as always, at the National Treasury. They are waiting for that particular opportune moment to take that particular picture of the CS carrying the briefcase, of course, by his lieutenants, the PSs, the Director General of Fiscal Prudency within the National Treasury. So, Mike, what is the situation like outside National Treasury?
Indeed, Hashim. We are still on Harambee Avenue. We are talking to Kenyans just to get a feel of what they think the budget is. And I'm joined by two gentlemen. Let me start with you. Ukikaribia hapa, tuanzie na majina yako, alafu tuambie maoni yako kuhusiana na bajeti inayosomwa leo.
Kwa majina ni naitwa Kennedy Owidhi. Mimi ni Mkenya wa kawaida na expectations zangu leo. My expectations today is that the government to invest, especially if we look at things that can bring our country more revenue, like agriculture, like infrastructure. Yeah, the activities that will ensure that farmers get subsidies, and also infrastructure. For instance, in my area, there's no electricity because we are, when you go and request for electricity to be provided with services in electricity, you are trying to purchase, you're given a quotation whereby you're even purchasing a transformer, which is a public property. I think the government should put its monies on such things, such as buying transformers, because those public properties, those small infrastructure is what build our economy, so that we can get enough revenue to be able to ensure that even the debt ceiling, that debt is reduced, and we can be able to depend upon ourselves. That's all. I would suggest that the government should use its money to put into things that we get more revenue. Come 2026, 2027 financial year, we don't want to hear that we are going to China, we are going to banks to borrow money. We have enough ways in which we can get revenue. So I would suggest that that's the government to invest.
What do you think of the move that this time round there are no new taxes introduced, especially in the finance bill of this year? What do you think of that move?
You see, especially for my colleagues whom I interact with, they are lethargical in giving taxes because they don't see where the taxes are going. All right? Even if, let's say, the way the CS for finance say that, okay, if you reduce the corruption by half, I would suggest that even though there is corruption, at least we see something trickling to us, trickling down. Just imagine, for instance, if the government invests in subsidies, I mean, I can go about my business, I can go about purchasing things that I value in my life, the things like food, things like housing, the things like my clothing. If it is reduced, I won't be bothered with what's happening up there, because at the end of the day, even if corruption is up there, but I'm continuing with my life as normal. But now, you find that up there, they're taking money, there's nothing reaching us down here. Now we end up being frustrated with poverty, not because we cannot earn, but because even the small that we are getting, they are taking and they are doing nothing, or completely nothing with it. So I would suggest that the government to take the initiative, that initiative to just do something that can be able to ensure that our life is a bit easier, and invest in subsidies that will help us normally.
Thank you so much.
Folk. Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm also joined by another Kenyan who wants to say a thing or two concerning the budget. Majina yako ni nani na karibu sana?
Okay, majina yangu ni Collins Nyangena Bosira. I'm from Kisii County.
Yes.
So hii Kenya yetu mahali tunaelekea mahali babaya. So hii budget ikisomwa, sisi tulipigia Ruto kura ili maisha yetu aweze kuangalia maisha ya chini. Tafadhali mimi naomba sana washukize bidhaa fulani, mwananchi wa Kenya asiumie sana.
Ni bidhaa kama gani ungetaka washukishe?
Bidhaa kama unga wanasema ati imeshuka. Kwa kusema ukweli, unga iko 200 na haijashuka, na ambapo tunaambiwa unga imeshuka 150 ama 130. Unga kuna mahali pengine wanauza 200 to 50. So unga mwananchi ndiye anategemea sana, na mkate pia inafaa ishuke juu mwananchi anategemea mkate kunywa chai kila asubuhi. Tafadhali mimi nawaomba washukize hizo vitu, ndio mwananchi wa kawaida aweze kufurahisha maisha yenye ambapo alikuwa anafurahisha kitambo. Kila kitu imepanda, so mimi ningependa mheshimiwa angalie hiyo vitu, bidhaa fulani mwananchi yenye anateseka asukishe.
Asante sana. Asante sana. Asante sana. We are also joined by another Kenyan here who wants just to give his views concerning the budget that is set to be presented today. Majina?
Well, Well, thank you so much once more. As I told you, we'll be linking up with various legislators, and I want to talk to one of them here, given that you see the parliamentarians at the end of the day are the people who are responsible for this particular budget itself. They will continue to converse. Today is just the Cabinet Secretary of Treasury, John Buddy, who will be bringing that particular budget, but the MPs at the end of the day will have the final say on where those particular funds will be going. Thank you, Mheshimiwa, for joining us, and maybe tell Kenyans who you are, and also what is your general overview of this year's budget?
Yeah, thank you so much. My name is Makali Mulu. I'm the MP for Kitui Central, and also a member of the Budget and Appropriations Committee. So, as you rightly put it, today the Cabinet Secretary Treasury will be coming to give a summary of the budget. But as members of Parliament, and more so the Budget Committee, we have been engaged with this budget for the last almost 1 month, where we've looked at it in details to check areas which the government has prioritized and areas which we think will require more resources. So in a summary, the budget is a 4.2 trillion budget. Out of that budget, in terms of financing, the ordinary revenue or the taxes will be financing up to a tune about 2.6 trillion. Then what we call A&A will be financing about 560 billion. Then we have some grants, which are about 46 billion. And the rest of the budget will be financed through borrowing. So we'll be borrowing about 876 billion this year. And that amounts to about 4.5% of our GDP. So the deficit is 4.5% of our GDP. In terms of key sectors which are going to benefit, the highest beneficiary will be education sector, which will take about 702 billion, followed closely by infrastructure and energy, which will take about 500. And then you have defense, which takes about 200. And after defense, then you have what we call the internal security, which takes about 150. So the rest are now following there. But in terms of prioritization of the budget, you realize that, as I said, the education sector has taken the lion's share, but despite that amount being given there, we are still facing challenges financing capitation of our schools, more so secondary schools and primary schools. We all know what is happening with the universities. Universities, most of them are in the red. They're almost collapsing, implying that even though we are provided for that resources, there are still huge gaps in that area. The other area which has a bit of gaps is the area of TVETs, the technical institutions. More so, the country has done a lot of technical institutions. Equipment has not been provided, and the teachers have also, the lecturers have also not been provided. So you realize that's another area which requires slightly more resources. When it comes to the area of health, we know it's a devolved function, and most of the money is going to the counties, will be given to take care of the healthy sector. But you realize that even as we are discussing today, the health professionals who have been supporting the universal health care have not been confirmed on a permanent basis. So you've seen them, most of the times, them coming to Parliament to plead with us to provide resources for them to be on permanent basis. But even though we tried our best as Parliament, we still realized we couldn't get enough money to put them on all of them. So some money has been provided, about 5.6 billion. And what the Health Committee was telling us is that provision will take care of about 9 months. So the agreement was that because we believe they should be confirmed, the agreement was that 9 months can start, and then anytime we get our supplementary budget, we can provide to conclude the year, so that from this year we make them permanently pensionable. This is important for this country because we've decided to go to provide health care to our people, but unless we have the right personnel in place, it will not be possible. As I said, the other challenge which we are facing as a country and which we need to address is the issue of public debt. I did mention to you that we are borrowing this year 876 billion. And if you look at our total public debt as at March this year, it was about 11.6 trillion. And out of that March, if you look at now the budget, we are going to spend about 1.9 trillion to pay our debts. It is the highest expenditure item in our budget. And we are getting to a situation where unless we address this matter of public debt, it can actually cause a lot of problems to this country. More so that we are, and if you look at the borrowing, there's something called the borrowing mix, the borrowing mix, which determines how much you borrow from locally and how much you borrow from externally. So if you look at the mix we have proposed now, we are proposing to borrow 68% domestically and borrow that 2% externally. When you borrow externally, you are likely to get concessional loans, which are cheaper. When you borrow domestically, which is about 68%, it means that you borrow at a high interest rate because you are using the local interest rates, and you also repayment periods are shorter. That means repayment of it will be now start affecting our budgets. And that's all you see. Because of all these things, we have very limited space to provide for development and to provide for recurrent. And over the years, what has suffered in this country's development budget? We put in the budget, but by the time we close the year, it will have been reduced through development, through supplementary budgets to a level where development goes below the recommended 30%. On that note, we don't grow our cake. We are minimizing the cake. And the more the cake becomes smaller, the more we all start now fighting for it, and the more we start complaining about having no money in our pockets. The other company which is bought, there isn't much tax in terms of increasing tax to the Kenyans. And I think that was the right move, because we've said many times that salaried Kenyans who earn salaries and who are payslips, we have squeezed the payslip to a level that they're even below the recommended 30% in terms of deductions. And what that implies is Kenyans have very little money to spend. And we have said, what happens normally? If we squeeze our expenditure, if Kenyans don't spend, then it means our demand for goods and services is also reduced. And when demand and goods and services is reduced, it is likely to adversely affect production in the industries. So if industries don't produce, then you are likely to get people losing their jobs. And when people lose their jobs, we have said many times, even the targeted income tax to be collected will have now to go low, because so long as people are getting sacked from their positions, then they can't pay taxes. So it's a circle which becomes really, really, really difficult. And as I conclude, I want to say this. I think what we need to do is to think about how can we get out of this as a country. We have said a number of things. One of them is that we need to look at where are we spending our budget. And I strongly believe, as a person in that committee, that we have some areas we could easily think of not spending money on and save money. So that means we need to rationalize our expenditure items. And if we do that, we are likely to make some savings. These savings can go towards reducing the borrowing. The other thing we can do, which I think is critical, is the issue of also ensuring that whatever we borrow, then it's applied well. You saw about a month ago, the Auditor General did report to Kenyans that for the last three years, we have paid over 600 billion in terms of commitment fee. Commitment fee is money which you have signed for and you are not drawing to implement programs. So that means you are paying money to service money in the bank which has not been utilized. And that is poor financial management. If you look at this year alone, the year 24-25, the one we're implementing, up to now, this country has paid 700 million on commitment fee. So I think these are areas we could improve. The other thing we need to improve is the area of leakages. I think we have said many times we have budget leakages, and this is public knowledge. When the Controller and Budget says, when the Auditor General says a third of our budget is not applied properly, the implication is that we could do better by sealing those loopholes where we are losing the money. And if we seal the leakages, then it means we'll have more resources to spend for the benefit of our people. There are some people who have gained out of this budget. For example, the elderly. The elderly, if you look at the budget, they have been allocated some money, which will continue providing the normal 2,000 every month. But at the same time, if you look at the finance bill, what has happened is if you are pensionable and you earn a gratuity, now it will not be taxed, which means we are trying to put slightly more money to Kenyan pockets, but I don't think that money is good enough to trigger serious economic activity to grow the economy. So if we want to grow the economy, we need to think seriously about putting more money into the pockets of Kenyans. And this means we need to think of programs as a country which can now be done. I'm very encouraged when I hear the executive talk about starting Kazi Mtahani, because these are some of the programs which have a direct impact to our pockets in terms of putting money to the pockets of Kenyans. And if we go in that direction, I can tell you for sure we will be on the right track. Our economic growth is currently about 4.8. The projection is about 5.5, which from where I sit, I think is a bit ambitious. So we need to do much more, and more so in the development sector. Revenue projections, I still believe we are not getting it right. They are still higher. The current CS are trying to reduce by about 100 billion, but I don't think that is good enough. And the challenge is when you overproject your revenue, then in budget implementation, if you don't realize that revenue, then for you to fill that gap, you borrow. So you find that's why our budget deficit keeps on changing every time. So we would want realistic revenue projections so that whatever we project in terms of revenue and whatever we project in terms of borrowing, we can stick to it because we are getting the figures we have projected. Basically, that's what I would want to say.
Thank you so much.
Yes,
Don't go too far. At least we want to speak to you further. You see, Mr. Makali is also a member of the Budget and Appropriation Committee. That's why you see he has the figures on his fingertips. And of course, we'll be linking up with him in just a few. But for now, I want to hand you over back to Mike, who is still outside the National Treasury, where he's conversing with Kenyans. Mike, over to you.
Indeed, we are still on the streets of the CBD, where we are talking to various Kenyans, getting their views regarding the budget that is set to be read today afternoon by the CS Treasury, that is John Mbadi. And here I'm joined by yet another Kenyan who wants to give his views regarding the budget that is set to be read. Karibu sana KBC.
Asante sana.
Majina yako?
Kwa majina anaitwa Veniva Himreri. Mi ni mkazi wa hapa CBD. Sisi ni wale vijana wa bega, wale kubeba mzigo. Na sisi kitu ya kwanza, sisi kama vijana Gen Z, kama ushatusikia Gen Z, sisi mahitaji yetu kila kitu ishuke. Hata ukiangalia unga saa hii, ukienda hata kwa hizi slum saa hii tunauziwa 200 to 10. Sasa tunashindwa. Sasa wanasema unga saa hii ati ni 100, na hakuna unga 100 hata saa hii. Hata mkienda kila pale, hata muuze hata unga yote saa hii ni 200. Kitu pili, kazi mtaani wache irudi kama kawaida. Unajua sisi ile kazi mtaani ilikuwa inatusaidia kama si vijana. Sasa hakuna kazi.
Na kwa sasa juu hakuna taxes mpya zinazoletwa na hii budget. What do you think of that? Maoni yako kulingana na hiyo?
Maoni yangu ni kitu ambaye tax saa hizi shuke tu, ni maombi yangu tu saa hii. Hiyo tu maombi yangu tu ishuke. Kama sisi wa Kenya sasa.
Yes.
Wa Kenya. Yes. Taxes ishuke. Kila kitu ishuke tu. Hiyo tu.
Asante sana. Asante sana. Kuna mwananchi mwingine hapa, majina yako?
Yes. Mimi naitwa Michael Seda.
Yes. Maoni yako kulingana na bajeti inayosomwa leo?
Okay, maoni yangu, what I expect today, kwa hiyo bajeti inasomwa leo na CS John Mbadi, na expect kukuwe na budget ya incorporate UHC health workers, waekwe to PNP. Next, na expect hii budget itatengwa ikuwe na pesa ya kuemploy public service interns, au pia wapewe contract after internship. Okay, I expect hii budget ita reduce VAT, so hizi commodities, hizi vitu tuna consume yeah, those are some things that I expect in today's reading.
Kulingana venye umesema health nayo imepewa over 200 billion na kulingana venye unasema, do you think that is enough?
Okay, health, I don't think hiyo ni enough. Juu as per now, hiyo coverage bado, okay, to me naweza sema hiyo inaitwaje, hiyo UHC. Juzi tumeona hawa nini wamestrike juu walitolewa contract hiyo ya nini, so sijui kama hiyo bilioni hiyo do wamepewa itawasaidia au pia wakuwe absorbed kama permanent and pensionable workers. But kama itaweza, it would be better.
Do you think cost of living based on this budget is set to go down?
That's what I expect. Hiyo budget ikisomwa, but hiyo ndo ikuwe the most, hiyo ndo isisitizwe kabisa. Tunataka kuishi kwa nchi yenye goods, hizo goods commodities bei zishuke, kila Mkenya feel kama ako nyumbani.
Tukimalizia, ukapatana na CS Bandi, unaweza mwambia nini?
Naweza mwambia, okay, I'm an intern.
Yes.
So tukue absorbed. Tunataka kazi sisi. Yes. Na kila Mkenya feel ni kama ako nyumbani hii budget. Yes.
Thank you so much for your time and maoni yako.
Thank you.
Yes, indeed, we have been talking to Kenyans, just trying to get a feel of what they think about their budget. And as you have seen, and also as you have heard, what they are emphasizing on is the cost of commodities to go down. That is one of the things that has come out of the conversation that we've had with a few Kenyans who have managed to grace our screens. We'll take you back to studio where Regina Manyara and Victor are continuing with the analysis of the budget that is set to be read today in Parliament building by the CS Treasury. Over to you, Regina.
Very much, Mike, and earlier on, Abdiaziz Hashim, they're just giving us a status report on what is happening both outside Treasury buildings as well as Parliament there. Abdiaziz has just entered into the Security Committee meeting. Remember, this is something that has been ongoing since yesterday, where we're expecting to have Douglas Kanja as well as the chair of IPOR appearing there, and that is where he's heading to. But earlier on, he took us through what is happening and the preparations. Several members of Parliament attending various committees across during the morning session before getting into Parliament in the afternoon, where we're expecting that particular maiden presentation of the proposed budget, 4 trillion shillings by Cabinet Secretary in charge of National Treasury, that is John Badi. Key speaker there was none other than Member of Parliament Kisii Central, that is Makali Mulu, who pointed out to a few things. First of Kitui Central, that is, and he said a few things, and what took me aback there was that he's saying that we are overly ambitious in our revenue targets, and subsequently we end up borrowing because we are planning for what we cannot raise. We'll be picking up that as we come back, but for now we take a quick break. We are joined by none other than Dr. Mukundi, who is an accountant as well as an economist, taking us through this budgetary, budget analysis this morning on Good Morning Kenya. And my colleague definitely is Victor on the other side of the studio. We'll be back shortly with the budget 2025-2026. Do keep it right here.
Wanaitwa the mighty, the legends, the Komarok. Komarok here?
Sir,
sahibu hili ujue na kujulisha mwenzangu, uliponitenda wewe nilisubiria kwangu.
Wazazi wengi siku hizi wameachia watoto wao vijakazi ambavyo hawajui wanafanya nini, wanafunzwa nini, wanakula nini.
Naposema kuwa mtoto ana mafikira zake, ina maana kuwa mtoto wa miaka 2 anaweza fikiria kweli.
Tunga sentensi kwa kutumia kitenzi cha silabi moja. Nywa.
Gururu inanyweka vizuri.
Wakati ambapo mlezi au mama anapoimba bembelezi. Mfano lala, mtoto lala. Tunaona takriri katika neno lala.
I know you feel me right now. The best feeling any you need me right now. I know.
I have 2 talents. One of them is dancing and the other one is acting. Dancing makes me feel like I'm flying.
And today's book is The Wolf and the 7 Little Kids.
My name is Abigail Kuleche, and today I'll be making an Italian dish, lasagna. Today I'll be making the beef version.
For Father's Day, we're going to make a card.
He tortured you, didn't he? I've done this to a lot of people, but there is no way I'm going to let him leave this door. He's going to know who Jamal really is.
What are you not telling me?
Father is trying to frame us. That's it.
Listen, this is my house. You're the one who needs to leave. So get out now.
This is my father's house, and you need to come with us right now.
Come with you where? Come with you where, Paul? And if I don't, what will you do? What exactly will you do? Do not come here. You need to leave me alone.
Where were you? You expect to walk in here from anywhere and find food lying around?
Oh, so you expect me to starve, right?
Please, leave me alone. I need peace.
Can we please talk outside? I feel like sometimes these walls are fears.
Ni nani sijiona kwa hii nyumba leo sasa?
Good morning to you too, Jen. Okay, what are you saying?
Freedom of choice, Mom. We do have that, right?
Kinyume na mitazamo potovu, wanawake wengi huchagua kuvaa hijab kwa hiari kama ishara ya uhuru na kiroho na uhuru wa kujieleza. Ni uamuzi wa moyo, si wa shinikizo.
Na Mtume sallallahu alaihi wasallam pia katika hadithi akatuambia ijtanibu 7 muhabikat, jiepusheni na mambo 7 zenye kuangamiza watu. Na miongoni mwa hizo mambo 7 akataja Mtume sallallahu alaihi wasallam kuwa ni ashirku billah, ni mtu kumshirikisha Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Hiyo basi njia rahisi ya wewe kujikinga kutokana na shida na dhiki na balaa ni kusoma suratul Falaq, suratul Nas na suratul Ikhlas. Sura hizi zitakukinga wewe mtazamaji wetu kutokana na shida ambazo zitakukumba katika maisha yako. Pepo ya dunia, pepo ya dunia.
Nyamasa, tunaongea na mama, naona ni wewe nikae chini. Mama ni nani? Nyamasa bwana, mimi naongea na mtu mimi unanipotezea wakati. I want to go to the lunch. Watulia wewe.
Troni ya keki akafunua keki. Agabata ni inaitwa 9x9. Hii mawe ya kujenga.
Mimi ndo nilikuwa nimeiba hiyo keki isingepatikana kwako na watoto wako mkiimba nyimbo za birthday.
Wow. Can I kiss the bride nani?
Sasa wewe una kiss the bride hapa kuna harusi.
Unasikia
Umemaliza maswali.
Hata keki yenyewe sikutaka kama nimeonja hata.
Sasa ungeonja nini na keki ushaiba?
Welcome back. This is a budget analysis on Good Morning Kenya on KBC Channel 1 2025-2026. And before we took that break, we had just had a status report on what is happening outside Parliament buildings as well as outside the National Treasury buildings on Harambee Avenue. Beehive of activity. Earlier on, we saw the entourage, CS Mbadi, getting into the office. We're expecting to get some feedback on what is happening in his office. Remember, he's going to be making this particular presentation, the very first in his tenure at the helm of the National Treasury, this afternoon at 2:30. We're looking at a proposed budget of around 4.2 trillion shillings. And the question is, how does the government intend to raise these particular funds? In studio this morning is myself, Regina Manyara, as well as my colleague Victor Law, and our guest is Dr. Mkundi, who is an accountant as well as an economist. As I hand it over to you, Victor and Dr. Mkundi, the question is lack of financial jurisprudence. This has been raised by a member of the Budget and Appropriations Committee, that is none other Member of Parliament, Kitui Central, Makali Mulu, saying that that is one of the challenges, or rather that is what is ailing us. And he pointed out a clear issue, and this is the commitments that Kenya has to pay for loans she signed off on but is not ready to use. How do we come about that from an accounts point of view, and how can we get out of that? Dr. Ari, to you.
Yeah, thank you. First of all is to say that that's a very sad state for especially people that are entering into those contracts. They want to get money, they commit themselves, and they make the taxpayers' money to be charged, but we do not get any benefit and any loan from those particular commitments that they make. I believe why that happens is because of very simple reasons. One of the reasons is when there is no proper planning. They just think that we can take that loan, and there is no proper planning, and therefore they pull back before they take it, and therefore it has some kind of implication on us. And therefore, a lack of proper planning, then again, there is nothing that really is guiding us. I think we are just running the way ordinary Kenyans would run their budget. We wake up in the morning, and when you wake up in the morning, you realize you do not have money. You decide, let me go and try to get some funds from a bank. That is how we are running a country like, and that is why we are having those commitments money that we are paying on such particular kind of things, and then all of a sudden we pull behind and we are left with some money that we are paying, which is costing us as taxpayers, because it will be charged on us. It is us to pay that amount of money, which we could have otherwise used in other things. Like the MP has said that it is the development budget that keeps on suffering. But it is suffering because we have a lot of spillage and a lot of those particular leakages that are there in that particular budget, and that is why we have such particular problem. So I believe if we can be able to be cautious enough, we are guided enough, we have proper planning, then such particular kind of cost we can eliminate as fast as possible. Yeah.
Very good. All right, so Makali Mulu there, Regina, who is a member, and yes, the information he has, you know, they've been preparing this and getting lots of documents and getting a lot of proposal and public participation across the country. So yes, the wrap that he's given us is quite enough, basically, A to Z of what we should be expecting and in that budget. But let me just a quick wrap of, just for the sake of people who are watching us right now. And before we do that, I think we also need to go back to Mike, because he's on the streets of the capital city. Mike Migwi, Wherever you are, please just talk to us once again and tell us what is mwananchi wa kawaida is saying. According to that gentleman, he said, mimi ni mwananchi wa kawaida. All right, let's go to Mike and listen to the sentiments of the Kenyans on the streets on what they should be expecting. Mike?
Indeed. We are still in the streets of Nairobi talking to various Kenyans regarding the budget, and right now I'm joined by yet another Kenyan tusikie maoni yake kulingana na bajeti ambayo inatarajiwa kusomwa leo. Karibu sana KBC. Kwa majina yako unaitwa nani?
Naitwa Dr. Gilbert Mombasa.
Maoni yako kulingana na bajeti ya leo ni yapi?
Maoni yangu ni kuwa kama wanaweza kubalance kwa zile activities ambazo zina generate income.
Tunamaliza na 47, so we have 7 minutes.
Give the impetus for economic takeoff or rejuvenation. Then we will be very much at home. For example, they have now given a larger fraction to education, health, agriculture. And mind you, those are the basic, because in education we are developing manpower.
Yes.
What we call capital human. And then in health, that human capital cannot be produced unless it is healthy. And that's where we want all our money, our
there are no new taxes that have been introduced.
Yes.
Do you think that's a
create any bottlenecks as a result of not taxing various activities?
Yes.
Especially businesses and so forth. I'm sure we shall develop.
Finally, kulingana na maoni yako, are we getting it right?
We are getting it right. I don't see any problem. As long as we are just started, and it will be very wrong to say we are doing it the wrong way, because we have just made a budget and we want to see it work. The moment maybe there will be a mid assessment is when we will know whether we are doing it the right way or the wrong way.
Yes.
But for now, that budget should be implemented.
Yes. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes, let me talk to yet another Kenyan regarding matters to do with budget. Majina yako ni yapi?
Majina ni Masibo Brian.
Maoni yako kulingana na budget?
Budget mimi nimeifurahia, lakini ningependa waangalie hiyo sekta ya SHA, sababu kitambo wanawake walikuwa wanaweza kujifungua for free mpaka hata wanapatiwa vitu za kujisaidia kama hata sukari, unga kitambo. But sasa ukiangalia hiyo help haiko. Alafu sasa hapo ndio ningependa waangalie sana.
Ukapatana na waziri wa fedha saa hii, unaweza mpea mawaidha gani kama Mkenya ambaye analipa ushuru?
Ningependa tu kumpongeza, lakini hiyo sekta ya kutumia pesa kwa development huko mashinani ndio wangeendelea kufanya hiyo mashinani, wafanye yani projects ziko even better.
Tukimalizia, unaona kama the cost of living based on this budget is going to go down?
Yeah, it must. Yeah, I think it go down kwa sababu I believe the president is doing a good job. I mean, nimekuwa always na support the government. Though kuna shida hapa na pale, but najua Ruto will take us forward.
Yes. Asante sana for your time. Indeed, that is the views of various Kenyans that we have talked to regarding the budget. They are expectant that things will look up for them, and especially when it comes to economy. And of course, things like education have been focused on, things like agriculture, things like infrastructure. Those are the things that will drive the economy of this country. I want to take you back to the studio for the continuation of the program Good Morning Kenya.
Mike Megwe, thank you very much for that. And of course, talking to Kenyans who have given us their insight and their just their opinion on this budget for 2025-2026. Thank you so much. All right, let's come back here and do a quick wrap of what we've been discussing since 6 a.m. A quick one is that the budget is going to be 4.2 trillion shillings. That is going to be the highest one. And just picking it from where Makali Mulu, who is a member of the Budget and Appropriation Committee, said that, yes, we are getting it right, but there are certain challenges that we are also facing in as far as that is concerned. He talked about the issue with education, where we are still facing the capitation. The school universities, according to him, are near collapsing because they need to be motivated when it comes to funding. TVET have no equipment, teachers and lecturers as well. When it comes to matters health, the counties are also still yearning and also asking for more money for them to employ, for example, health professionals. And according to him, he says that they are going to get some money, around 5.6 billion shillings, that is going to take them for the next 9 months to employ them. But some of them are still talking about PNP, that is permanent and pensionable. Later on, they'll also look for some money for the supplementary budget to confirm the rest. Dr. let's come back and give a quick wrap. Today is going to be an important day. We've talked much. What should we expect? Is there hope for Mwananchi?
Thank you, Victor. I think this particular budget, I can say, I can talk about it on two sides. Number one, there could be hope. Reason is because you have been told there is no taxation as far as this budget is concerned, which we have already seen, and even we have heard one member of the budget committee alluding the same. Then also we have seen some increases in key areas, especially we have seen some increases in health sector, which touches Mwananchi directly, and also areas like the counties. You know, counties devolved states, so Mwananchi can get it actually at his doorstep, and therefore we have seen that. And also in judiciary, there is some increase in the money that is going to the judiciary. That simply means that somebody can get justice fast. But also on the other side, I think this budget could be a little bit bad, because you can see almost 60–70% of it is going to actually paying debt. And as you have heard, is there has been wrong prioritization of the areas of the budget. And also we might have the MP are saying that the of the budget is applied not as intended. So we can see the implementation could also become a problem as far as this budget is concerned. That is why I am saying that this budget could be a little bit tricky for us as Kenyans.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Mukundi, John Mukundi, who is an economist and as well as an accountant by profession. We've been here since 6 a.m. Asante sana for coming, Daktari.
Asante.
And you as a viewer, thank you so much for joining us. Well, this is going to be continuing until later in the day when John Mbadi will be going to Parliament, not as a parliamentarian, but he is used to that floor for the last 15 years, but this time around as a cabinet secretary for the Treasury. My name is Vitolo. Thank you so much for watching. Regina?
Yes, we bring the morning session maybe to a close and change gears and change guarding as far as the budget 2025-2026 is concerned. Joining me not too long is going to be none other than O'Brien Kimani, who's going to be engaging tax experts, that is Faria Jama, as well as Leonard Kafafa, who is a public policy analyst, as we gear up to have that maiden presentation of the 2025-2026 budget at Treasury at Parliament buildings at around 2:30 by none other than National Treasury Cabinet Secretary John Mbadi. I'm Regina Manyara. See you in not too long.
thinking about your future? Saving through a registered retirement benefit scheme allows you to save up to 30,000 shillings every month tax-free, and investment income from the scheme is completely tax-exempt, meaning your money grows even faster, especially when you factor the power of compound interest. Withdrawals of retirement benefits are tax-exempt for retirees who reach retirement age as specified in scheme rules, retire early on grounds of ill health, or have been members of a scheme for at least 20 years. This tax exemption also applies in payment of retirement annuity and gratuity. Further, contributions you make to post-retirement medical funds are now tax deductible up to 15,000 shillings per month. This provides an immediate tax benefit and greater peace of mind for future healthcare needs. Remember, retirement benefits prevents old age poverty, offer emergency funds for illness or job loss, and offers financial protection to your dependents. Join a registered pension plan today. Reduce your tax burden and enjoy your retirement to the fullest. For more information, visit our website at www.rba.go.ke, call our toll-free line 0800-720-300 or email info@rba.go.ke. RBA, safeguarding your retirement benefits. The men and women in boots, they are commanded to defend and protect the sovereignty and territorial integrity of the Republic of Kenya. Their bravery knows no limits.
Make a man go through the wall without breaking the wall.
Laziness, it is not in our vocabulary.
But what are their stories, their tales? Military Tales, every Saturday at 9 p.m. with Ben Troy and Joey.
Dear God, please protect Snow.
How did he even get out of your sight? What were you doing with her? Are you trying to make a child your accomplice? Wait.
Grandpa,
I don't want to ever see you with that letter again.
I just needed some air, that's it.
You should have said that.
You all don't care about me.
No matter how much you try to destroy my dad's name, I will be here to protect it.
JJ is finished.
How can you guard something that's already destroyed?
No, over my dead body, no.
19 nations will compete in the Total Energies CAF African Nations Championship, Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania 2024, which will be staged from 2nd to 30th August 2025. Amongst the 4 groups in the tournament A to D, Kenya is pooled in Group A, together with Morocco, Angola, DR Congo, and Zambia.
Algeria from the set piece, the header is on target, but it's saved.
This unique competition featuring the best locally based players from across the continent definitely has something for everyone. Just bring your A game as you let it flow live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
This Father's Day, tell us why your dad is your hero. Is it his strength, his kindness, or his bad dad jokes? Post a 1-minute video sharing what makes your dad unforgettable. And you could win a one-night staycation at one of these hotels: the Fairview Hotel Nairobi, the Best Western Hotel Upper Hill, or the Holiday Inn Nairobi. Simply tag your 1-minute clip at Y254 on X, Facebook, and Instagram for your chance to win. Choose one of these hotels to also tag in your post, and you could spoil your dad for a night at Holiday Inn Nairobi, at Fairview Hotel Nairobi, and at Best Western Upper Hill. Don't forget to use the hashtag MyKBCDad. Let's celebrate our heroes in style.
They say the earth without art would just be get it? We circumnavigate the globe and traverse the local scene to bring you art and culture at their very best. From fine art, culinary art, performing arts, and even cultural events, you name it, and we have got you covered. My name is Kevin Kasioki, and I will be serving you this and much, much more each and every Friday at 8 p.m. only on KBC Channel 1.
Sukagawa is a city in Fukushima in the Tohoku region. It's known as the birthplace of the superhero Ultraman. Statues of characters from the Ultraman series are everywhere here. Ultraman first appeared on Japanese TV in 1966. This superhero fights aliens and monsters to protect the Earth. In an era before CGI, the series was a hit for its groundbreaking special effects. It's so popular that new works are still produced today. It gave birth to a genre known as tokusatsu that has gained fans around the world. Sukagawa is the hometown of Tsuburaya Eiji, Ultraman's creator. That connection made it the location of choice for many tokusatsu productions. This 2024 motion picture was shot in Sukagawa. It's an adventure fantasy where the monster Yamata no Orochi is prevented from destroying the world by a pair of children. Action! Tokusatsu techniques were used heavily in this film. The most dynamic scenes show the monster's 8 heads writhing simultaneously. The effect is produced manually by a crew of 15. I think that scenes shot using real physical objects are far more compelling and persuasive than those created with CGI. For example, scenes where we use real explosives turned out 120% better than we expected. It looks extremely good on screen. Sukagawa City has a program to teach tokusatsu techniques. In it, local middle and high school students spend 6 months creating a movie. What really impresses me about the old Godzilla movies, for example, is how they're all shot using very extensive and realistic miniature sets. It's important to keep teaching these techniques so we'll always have people able to create such sets when needed. It's the day of the shoot at last, and the students are assembling their set. The student playing the monster is squeezed into his costume. A bit more... To add realism to the destruction, they scatter plaster and fragments of styrofoam on the buildings. Cameras rolling. Ready? Break. Move forward. Flap your hands about. Filming is over and everyone gathers around the monitor. They're especially pleased with how this dynamic shot turned out. I really felt I was becoming the monster in there.
なんかこういう風になんかやってる感じは地味なんですけど、なんか結構映像で見てみると迫力が出るっていうところが結構魅力だと思います。
The word literally just means special effects, but young Japanese filmmakers continue to evolve